It's great to be here with you on a 3 and Out all across. Sorry, Cam. I got you. You got me. I said go ahead, and then good Monday here on 3 and Out. BJ Bennett, Ben Troop, I'm Kevin Thomas. Glad you were with us. A lot to get to. Brooks Austin going to join us. Dogs Daily on SI. We're looking ahead to Georgia and Clemson. Also, D. Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Journal-Constitution will join us in hour 2. And Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, will join us. Apparently, Trevor Lawrence is indeed a human being who walks amongst us. So we'll talk to her about that as well. But certainly, storylines everywhere coming out of the weekend, BJ and Ben. And, we'll look to obviously talk more football as now we're into preseason football. So this week, moving forward into February, there'll be football of some kind every single week moving forward. So that's good, obviously. And we'll get it started this weekend. Braves also set a record for, do you call it futility or just, man, it's like the 17 games in a row. They've one loss. So that is a MLB record for such hair pulling out madness in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I got to correct you about it being the football preseason. No, it's the season. I understand we have preseason. Look, I understand we have preseason games. Like technically, you have Dallas and Pittsburgh coming up in a couple of days this week, but we have real live football. It's the season. We have made it to the season. August 1st, August 2nd. It is the football season. I'm not going to call it the preseason. It is upon us. And yes, it's a preseason game, but it's still football. And Ben, I know you love the preseason games. Dallas and Pittsburgh coming up later this week. But yeah, I mean, Kevin, I don't know what the right phraseology is for the Braves. Have they set a new mark for mediocrity, I guess, because it's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. I mean, I guess if you go off of that, Braves are going to win tomorrow night against St. Louis. But it's been strange to watch the Braves have such predictable success followed by such predictable failure, literally time and time again. I've not seen anything like this, and neither has modern Major League Baseball. You would expect kind of some chaos, I guess, with a little bit of the roster change you've seen, but hopefully this is a team that can settle down, that can win some games. Listen, Milwaukee's a really good team. I think they're 15 or 16 games above 500. We know that. You have St. Louis, then you have some more division games. The saving grace in all of this is that the Mets have done the same thing. Like whatever the Braves have done, the Mets have done. I think you're still exactly 4 games back. So still within reach, can still win this thing. But yes, a couple of thoughts right off the bat, Ben. It is football season, and the Braves got to find a way to do the unthinkable. Win 2 games in a row. Put a winning streak together.
I mean, yeah, football is back. And when you talk about the Hall of Fame game, Dallas and Pittsburgh, you get a chance to, it's really about the festivities more than the actual game itself. I know that Dak and Ben Roethlisberger and those guys are going to make, an appearance. They're going to shake some hands and, sign some autographs. That's all it's going to really be about. But I am happy that the season is here. I mean, I know with everything going on right now in sports, you're just happy to have football back. And as you mentioned with the Braves, I mean, the Braves find a way to stay relevant, right? They do just enough to stay relevant. They still breaking records. It's just, I mean, they 50-50. They can't get right, can't get out of their own way. They're good enough to beat anybody in their roster, and they're bad enough to lose to anybody on their roster. But Kevin, like you said, they ain't really winning series or losing series. They just can't go back to back with a win. Why? Because they get close to that ever so daunting 500 record. Every time they get close to that, we about to be 500. So you know what we about to do? We about to implode. But I still give the Braves a lot of credit. They still stand in it. They still gonna make sure, as Kevin said, hair pulling is gonna happen all the way to the very last game of the season because they won't go away, and you don't want them to go away. But they don't want to put no distance between them, and the Mets right now. But Dansby Swanson, finding a way to break records of his own. The first Braves shortstop hit 18 plus home runs since the team moved to Atlanta. So you still got records being set. It's just the fact that I don't know if it's a record worth celebrating. I mean, I remember when Florida kicker had the most punts in the season. Well, that's not a good thing when you got the most punts ever. That just means that I don't know. Can't get a first down. So we'll see what happens. Kevin, BJ, as you mentioned, got St. Louis coming up, probably going to get the dub, but then can they put 2 wins together? Could we imagine what his Braves teams would be right now if they just, won 2 games? won 2 games back to back, all throughout the season, but they still in it. Football is back. Dallas, Dallas, Pittsburgh got some Hall of Fame speeches. I will say this. I hope that I did hear something that Troy Polamalu did test positive for COVID. I hope he's able to go into the protocol, and hopefully he's able to do his speech, because for a man, a few words, I definitely want to finally have to hear him speak, on the national stage. But I definitely hope he gets well soon.
Certainly. And again, Ben mentioned Dansby Swanson there. I think Dansby, if he hits 20, once he's done that, he's like the only shortstop since the 50s. And this is now you're starting to Braves organization history to hit that many home runs. So for as much as people gripe and complain about Dansby, he's also doing something you haven't seen a whole lot of there at the shortstop position as well. Again, a day off tonight before a 3-game series with St. Louis, and then they're right back home this weekend. But this is a Braves team, BJ, for as maddening and as frustrating as it's been. You and I were talking about it. I mean, you're 4 games out. You're still, you're still right there. And the Mets aren't going away and hiding. The Phillies aren't going away and hiding. You're still right there. And the Nationals and Marlins, who I think you play a good bit here in August. As a matter of fact, I think after this next homestand, when you go on the road, it's like Marlins, Nationals. It's some teams that you should beat up on that have kind of bagged it here for 2021. There's a chance for the Braves to make a little hay, but you'd like to see them play a little more consistent. Again, the starting pitching continues to pitch pretty well. The bullpen continues for the most part to pitch pretty well. When you win 10-1, and when you lose 2-1. That's just kind of seemingly how it goes.
Yeah, and it's been frustrating because what makes the Braves' inconsistency kind of sting is that you are right there. It's one thing to not be able to play up to your potentially, when you are 10 games out, 8 games out, but you're 4 games out. And the Mets struggled against Cincinnati. The Mets have not been playing consistent baseball either. But I think there is also hope in that frustration, in that we have not yet seen the best of the Braves. And Kevin, we've talked about this all season, right? Because you had a couple of 4-game losing streaks in the first, month or two, and you've asked this question, 100 times? When are the Braves going to win 7 out of 8? When are the Braves going to win 8 out of 10? When are the Braves going to win 9 out of 12? You feel like that's coming just because this team has talent, especially after the trade deadline. You bring in, obviously, Duvall. You bring in Soler. Both those guys were in the starting lineup, had some hits over the weekend. I think you feel like a run or a mini run is coming, and a mini run gets you in the mix. You are 4 games out. That's a good weekend, and the Mets having a bad weekend from being right there, and you have a couple of series left head-to-head with New York. So what's frustrating isn't just that the Braves aren't winning consecutive games, it's that they're not winning consecutive games while they're within reach. And I do think it's coming. I don't know when. Maybe it starts against St. Louis. Maybe it's like you said, Kevin, when that stretch against the now lowly Nationals and the Marlins begins, and you feel like you can win a couple of series in a row. But the division is within reach, and that sounds strange to say for a team that has not had a winning streak in a couple of weeks now, but it is within reach. Regroup tonight, take a deep breath, and just go out there and play baseball. It's little things, right? The loss yesterday to Milwaukee, the Brewers had 3 hits. The Brewers had 3 hits, and you lost. You had runners on a couple of times late. I think you had 2 runners on in the 8th, unable to advance the runner. So it's the little things. Get a guy from second to third. If you have somebody on third with less than 2 outs, get it to the outfield. You don't have to hit a home run. Get the runner in. I think it's those little things, and I do think the law of averages at some point in close games, kind of crazy moments, the streaks of you can't win 2, 3 in a row. I do think some of that's going to come back around at some point.
Law of averages, market corrections. The Braves need to just find a way to get it done. And once again, starting pitching used to be a problem. Now they're actually pitching well. You see what Dansby Swanson is doing. Austin Riley. He's finding a way to show us I am the third baseman of the future. If Max Fried can get back to being who he is, who knows how how crazy this thing is going to get down the stretch. But when people say, man, does it really take that many games to decide a winner in these divisions of baseball? And the Braves are proven, yes, it does. I mean, you would think that 100 and some games, I mean, you would have decided who was going to be the winner, 30 games ago. Nope. It would literally come down to the last couple of series of the year, and the Braves will have to win, 3 out of 4 against the Mets, to make it into, because there ain't going to be no wild cards coming out of NL East this year. I mean, I do think this Braves team, BJ and Kevin, the culture of the team seems to be what's keeping it going. They ain't throwing the towel. As Kevin mentioned, a lot of teams, did you see that trade deadline? Forget who the Braves were getting. Look at what everybody else was doing. Look, if we ain't in contention, we don't want to pay you this money. I mean, Scherzer gone. I mean, I just think that if this Braves team can find a way to get a little rhythm going, maybe this thing, a snowball, and who knows? Because right now, if you Alex Anthopoulos, you saying, look, we good enough to go out there and win this division. Problem is, I don't know who we gonna have marching out there every single night. These guys, I mean, like I said, the football we call it can't get right. Man, you good enough to make the play, and you bad enough to lose it for us. That's kind of what the Braves are right now, but that's what kind of make them a good team. I mean, no Ronald Acuna. I ain't even going to go through all the guys that's not there, and maybe they just trying to keep it close with the Mets, Kevin, because they do got some guys coming back. Hopefully they'll come back here in the next month, in the next couple of weeks. But I still give the Braves a lot of credit. To still be 4 games out with everything they've dealt with. A lot. I mean, enough can't be said about the fight they've shown.
Yeah, and again, hanging around, trying to make it interesting here as they come down the stretch. We've got so much to get to, as BJ said. Look, we've got football to talk about. We are in August. It is officially the season, as BJ said. When you talk about the countdown to kickoff, we have college football games coming up this month. We have NFL college football games to count coming up this month as well. So it begins here in 2021. Also, Brooks Austin of Dogs Daily on SI.com will join us here this hour as well. Love to hear from you on Twitter at Pigskin Radio. We stream live every day, ESPNCoastal.com. You can also find us live streaming on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll come back with more 3 and Out, talking college football next here on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Good to have you here, 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Kevin Thomas, BJ Bennett, Ben Troop. Ben, glad to have you. On point as always. Well, we got a lot to get to. Brooks Austin will join us coming up in about 15 minutes here on 3 and Out. We'll talk Dogs and Clemson with Brooks, which is now closer than you think, almost a month away for Georgia and Clemson. But we look at the college football season coming upon us. BJ and Ben, we always talk about who we feel pretty good about it's going to be in, but who's that team that kind of comes off the radar, that dark horse team that you think has a shot to make the college football playoff?
All right. I'm gonna say this because on my sheet, on my show rundown, it says which dark horse team has an outside shot at making a run to the college football playoff, not at making the college football playoff. So for me, based on that phraseology, I'm gonna go with Louisiana. And I'm talking about the Raging Cajuns. I think when you look at the Sun Belt, you have a couple of teams that have clearly proven to be kind of top 15 to 20 type teams in the country. And, you look at Coastal Carolina last year, what they did was incredible, going undefeated through the regular season. I think it's hard, even though they'll be favored in every game, to say Coastal Carolina is going to go 2 years without losing a regular season game. I think that might be a little tough to project potentially. And I also think Coastal Carolina doesn't have the non-conference schedule that Louisiana does. Now you think about the Raging Cajuns, and they absolutely deserve to be a preseason top 20 team this preseason. You're looking at a roster that has Levi Lewis, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You're talking about Osiris Torrance up front, one of the best offensive lines in the country. You're talking about a really good defense that returns 8 or 9 starters, and you have a season opener at Texas. Everybody's talking about, Texas in the SEC, Texas and Steve Sarkisian. What's going to happen with Texas in 2023? Well, Texas better be ready in week 1 of 2021 because Louisiana, as Iowa State learned last year, is elite. And again, I know I say this from time to time, but I think sometimes we forget about it. Iowa State made the Fiesta Bowl. Iowa State was a top 10 team last year. Iowa State was in the mix for the college football playoff. Louisiana went to Ames and beat them by 17. If you're Louisiana and you beat Texas in week 1, you're going to be favored in every game the rest of the way out, where App State is another chance at a high-profile win, Georgia Southern. And then if you're Louisiana and you're 12-0 with a win over Texas, and you have Coastal Carolina, theoretically, in the Sun Belt Championship game, and maybe Coastal Carolina's top 10, is that not enough of a resume for a program that showed college football they were legit a year ago to at least make a run? So when you're talking about a dark horse to make a run, give me Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns.
Another Sun Belt team, BJ. You go from Coastal Carolina last year, for which, everything you said about them did come to the forefront, to Louisiana this year. My dark horse, it's gonna be Miami, and the reason why is I know people are gonna say they got Alabama the first game of the year. Well, I don't think nobody's gonna hold them to Miami. And BJ, is there gonna be a better quality loss than Alabama? I would say no. Then you got App State, right? Okay, now you're going to used to be the headliner of the Sun Belt, even though App State gonna have a fighter chance to go back and win the Sun Belt again this year. Then you got Michigan State. So you talk about you're out of conference right now. It's Alabama, App State, and Michigan State. So you got one of the best teams, in the Big Ten. You got, considerably one of the best teams in the Sun Belt, and you got the best team in the country your first 3 games of the year. Then you got Central Connecticut. Then you got Virginia. Got off. And this is going to be the game. You at North Carolina. Now, people are going to look at what happened last year against Alabama. Last year against North Carolina. And when they played the U, you don't have to worry about that running game this year. You're going to have to find a way to neutralize Sam Howell and those weapons, which is going to be easier said than done. NC State, is going to be tough. Pitt is going to have a defense. It's going to depend on what type of Georgia Tech team you get towards the end of the year, the first weekend in November. Then you're talking about Florida State will depend on the health of Mackenzie Milton. Virginia Tech always plays tough, and then you finish up with Duke. I think that schedule out of conference, BJ, check. When you got Alabama, App, Michigan State, that's a pretty good out of conference schedule. I don't think Central Connecticut is it help you at all outside of padding your stats. At North Carolina is going to be huge. What can you play? Well, you don't have to play down the competition. Can you not? It's going to be kind of like a back and forth against North Carolina State and Pitt. I don't know what type of team Virginia's going to have this year. Virginia Tech is always tough. Bronco Mendenhall always have Virginia playing well. But for me, I think it's going to be Miami. I know it might be fake hype, but if De'Ara King can find a way to upset the Tide, I don't think that's going to happen at all. But De'Aaron King did boost the reputation of not just Miami last year, but Manny Diaz. I mean, he was kind of walking around with his chest out until they play. The teams they got embarrassed by last year were Clemson, who you don't have to play this year, and North Carolina, for which you don't have to deal, which they won because the defense didn't show up, not necessarily because of Sam Howell. So I think Miami got an incredible shot, to be a dark horse this year. It's gonna rise and set on, the ACL or the health, of De'Aaron King. But I think if they can keep him healthy, kind of like take away some of those RPOs, because they're gonna have a run game, for which we're gonna get to later on when we talking about position battle, or the best positions are the last 20 some years. I think for me, give me Miami, because like I say, the schedule, the first 3 weeks, you got to get through that. Deal with North Carolina, deal with Pitt, deal with NC State. You got a shot to definitely be there in the end.
Well, I don't think they're going to get through that. That's why I think that's probably a tough one. Look, dark horse is kind of a strange thing, because I think the day and age of like a true dark horse, like to me, if you were to like legit dark horse, it would be like a team that everybody thinks is going to be like five wins, 6 wins, and all of a sudden they're sitting there late in the season with maybe 9 or 10 with a week to go, and they got to try to finish. But I think as far as this goes, I look at the dark horses. Who are we saying may not make it? Probably won't make it, but I think we'll have a chance. I think it could be Penn State. They may not be a true dark horse in the truest sense, but hear me out. They got Auburn early, which would give them an out-of-conference win over an SEC team if they can get it. It's at home. We'll see if they get that. Then you look at the Big Ten. If they can get by kind of their nemesis, which is Ohio State, I think they got a shot to make it. I think they got a shot to get in there. And so, again, I think most people would say, well, they're not going to get by Ohio State, and they maybe go slip up, somewhere else. And so you don't really count them as a playoff contender. But I really think, Penn State might be a team that people look at and say, yeah, they'll probably be decent, maybe a 9-3 or something like that. But I think if the cards fall right for them, they do have a chance to make a run at getting a playoff spot there out of the Big Ten, and maybe upset the apple cart, so to speak, or the Buckeye cart, as the case may be here in the last several years. They're out of the Big Ten. So, it's all depending on what you kind of view as a dark horse team. I don't know if anymore you truly get that team that comes off the radar, BJ, and in college football and surprises you, because, well, quite frankly, if there was a team like that, they're probably not going to let them get in the college football playoff right now, as 4 teams are going to be like, oh, where'd that team come from? Oh, Coastal Carolina. No, who knows about that? Anybody know where they're at? I says Carolina, but anybody know where? Like, they're not going to let you in. So the chances for like a true dark horse to me are pretty slim. You kind of have to go with that team that, as you said, is probably sitting out there in that 10 to 15 range, maybe even as high as 8. That probably, if they win 1 or 2 games that people maybe think they won't, has that chance to get in there.
And that just goes to show you how much college football has been dominated by the same 4 or 5 teams, that you're talking about a dark horse and you're talking about a top 10 team in the preseason. If y'all want a Power 5 example, because, I do think Louisiana's a team to keep an eye on. But, Ben, I know you went ACC Coastal with Miami. I'll stay there but go with North Carolina. I just think Miami, playing Emma, that non-conference schedule is so rough. I look at North Carolina. A lot of pundits feel like you have the best quarterback in the country, okay? And I know Sam Howell has his games where he throws interceptions, but you have a guy that gives you a chance to win every game on your schedule. He's going to throw for 300, 350 yards, 3-4 touchdowns. North Carolina was pretty active in the transfer portal, got a running back in from Tennessee. I think defensively they're going to be a lot better. And you look at their schedule. I think for the most part, it's manageable. You don't have Clemson in the regular season. You do have Miami, but Ben, you mentioned it. That North Carolina-Miami game last year, North Carolina beat Miami by 45 and ran for over 700 yards. So I think when North Carolina takes the field against Miami, they're going to do so with confidence. North Carolina does have a national showcase game the day before Halloween. They play at Notre Dame. And I think that's one of those games where it's not too tough that you can't win. But if you're North Carolina and you're trying to make a splash and you're trying to get national attention, how about beat Notre Dame on Saturday night, October the 30th, and have that momentum heading into November? And then here's something interesting, Ben, I know you know this. They open the season, because if you're going to be a part of that national title hype, Kevin's right. You got to have the early talking points. Their first game is at Virginia Tech on a Friday night. So a standalone game the Friday of the first week of the season. If Sam Howell goes for 400 yards, you win in Lane Stadium, you beat the Hokies, people are talking about you, maybe you move up in the polls. Can you beat Miami? Can you beat Notre Dame? And do you set up an ACC championship game where theoretically, and the ACC would love this, you have an undefeated Clemson, or maybe even a one-loss Clemson with Georgia, and an undefeated North Carolina, and there's a chance at another signature win for the Heels where if you beat Clemson, you're in. I mean, if North Carolina, people can say all they want about, Ohio State and Oklahoma and Georgia and Alabama. If North Carolina goes undefeated, they're in. They're in the playoff. Is that likely? No. But would I put them in the dark horse category with their quarterback and as good as they've been the last year moving into this year? Yeah, keep an eye on the Tar Heels.
There it is. I mean, you're talking about North Carolina, Sam Howell. You're talking about Miami with De'Aaron King. I mean, BJ, you're talking about Louisiana. It's going to be exciting to see. I do think that Sam Howell and those guys, I mean, maybe they can supersede expectations this year. BJ kind of like underwhelmed a little bit last year, didn't really play up to the potential that even though he was in the class all by himself his freshman year, and you mentioned last year, he had a running game to depend on him and De'Ami Brown, those guys on the outside, but replacing a lot at the running back position. But I still think the ACC is going to be on display when you talk about North Carolina, when you talk about Miami, you talk about BJ, you talk about Louisiana. I know, BJ, another team that you were talking about in the break, be on the lookout for them LSU boys. Not the 2019 LSU Tigers that we've grown to know and love, but I mean, you're gonna have a really, really good defense with them two cornerbacks. You look at, they got Mike Jones, who at the linebacker position, bring in two new coordinators. It's gonna come down to, is it gonna be Johnson?
Well, hold up. Is LSU a dark horse? That's what I'm asking, because I agree with you.
Yes, BJ, because
they won the national title 2 years ago.
Gene Chizik got fired 2 years after winning the national title. It's not okay. They won in 2019, and in 2020, all those guys left for the NFL, and they had a losing record. Coach O better be lucky he signed that contract extension after he won the Natty, because if they wouldn't have won it, would Coach O even still be at LSU with what they did last year? I mean, Vanderbilt fired their coach. The audacity. Sorry, man, he already been here 4 years. We went undefeated in an all-SEC schedule. So yes, BJ, LSU can be a dark horse because you're dealing with a lot of new faces, and a lot of those guys, some of those guys, they play on a 2019 team, a couple of years removed from that. So yes, dark horse when it comes to LSU boys, absolutely.
We'll see who steps up and kind of grabs that early mantle a couple of weeks there into the college football season as maybe a dark horse contender early for the college football playoff. We'll come back. One game that could have some early precedence on that. Georgia Clemson right out of the gate. Brooks Austin going to join us from Dogs Daily and SI when we return here on 3 and Out. It's Kevin Thomas, Ben Troop, BJ Bennett. Glad you're making us a part of your day here on 3 and Out. College football is back this month. We're excited about that, obviously. Have to wait a little bit more than a month, though, for Georgia Clemson, which is right around the corner. And joining us here on the program from Dogs Daily on SI, Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. Brooks, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well, gentlemen. How are you guys today?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. I know you've already been hard at work breaking down Georgia Clemson there for Dogs Daily. So we're just barely over a month away from that one getting started. Obviously, these teams are getting back to fall practice. What's the biggest thing you think Georgia needs to get done between now and kickoff versus Clemson?
Well, first of all, I think they got to find some answers on that offensive line unit, right? You got to have 5. They're definitely going to have 5 good ones. Whether or not they have 5 great ones and 5 guys that are consistently playing together throughout this fall camp, that's the question to me. I think you start at left tackle primarily, right? Are you going to roll Jamari Sawyer back out there after playing 9 games, I believe it was, at left tackle last year before playing his 10th at left guard in the Peach Bowl? What do you do at left tackle will answer questions about what you do at that other question spot, which happens to be one of those guard spots. Is Jamari going to kick inside, where I think he ultimately plays in the NFL? Or is he going to stay out at left tackle during that first game? That's the first question you got to answer. After that, it's about getting those defensive backs that you spent all offseason bringing in, getting those guys comfortable in their defensive system there at the University of Georgia. If you answer those 2 questions over the next month, I think you feel pretty good about where you are heading into that September 4th matchup.
And Brooks, I know you look at the game tape and you see it from an X's and O's standpoint. Georgia's offensive line, specifically against Clemson's defensive line. I mean, that defensive line has so much talent. That's how Clemson wins games. What's the key to neutralizing, I guess, that Clemson front, which has a couple of All-Americans on it again for this year?
Yeah, I've been on the record saying I think Clemson's front 7 is the best in the country. I don't think there's any question about that. There's really no debate, honestly, in my opinion. What they have from defensive end to defensive end, including their linebackers, is absolutely phenomenal. Your question as to how do you neutralize them, I don't think you do. I think what you're going to have to figure out if you're Georgia is how do we maintain an ability to get the ball out quickly while also maintaining the ability to remain explosive, because that's what Todd Monken's offense is entirely about. Can we take shots down the field? Can you scheme up enough opportunities to get the ball driven down the field while also getting the ball out of JT Daniels' hands? I think that's what you have to do, because honestly, I don't think there's an offensive line in the country. Despite the questions that Georgia has, I don't think there's an offensive line in the country that can sit there and say, hey, we're going to drop back 30 times a game in 3- and 5-step drops and just, be okay with what Clemson's going to throw at you defensive line-wise. They're going to get after the quarterback. They're going to create pressures. It's about minimizing those opportunities, whether it be through quick game opportunities, whether it be through screen game opportunities, whatever it is. You have to neutralize them by scheme, not by execution, in my opinion.
And Brooks, I mean, I know you talk about the fact that when you look at this, offensive line, it's going to be a retooled offensive line, a bunch of guys that can play multiple positions. But I think about JT Daniels and his launch point. I mean, when I was, back when I played a long time ago, the offensive line coach would say, can you create a smile in the pocket? Can you create a nice little smile in that pocket so that JT Daniels can get the ball out? Because like you were saying, routes is one thing, route combinations are another thing. And some of these routes take a little bit longer time to develop. Is this offensive line got enough time to gel to be able to go deep into this kind of like a complicated offensive scheme?
Yeah, honestly, Ben, I think if you're Georgia, you're not going into the game saying, like, if you go into this football game thinking you're going to take 12 or 15 deep shots, like real 7-step play action, like offensive line got to hold up for 3.5 seconds type of play designs, you're in a losing proposition. Again, I don't think any football program goes into this game thinking you're going to be able to do that. They're just too good. There's too many guys on that defensive front from Clemson that can absolutely 9 times out of 10 win their one-on-one matchups. So if that's the case, the real question is, if you're Georgia, can we sustain offensive drives while also having 4 or 5 of those deep shot explosive type plays, a half, right? If we can get 7 or 8 of those in a football game, I think if you're Georgia and you're Todd Monken, you feel really, really comfortable about what you've got in this football game. But the idea of sitting back there and saying, hey, we're just going to create a nice, pretty Peyton Manning style smile pocket for 4 quarters it's a fool's premise. Like, it's not going to happen. They're just too good up front.
Brooks, conversely, do you expect Clemson to look different with DJ Uiagalelei at quarterback than Trevor Lawrence? Both were big. I know Trevor Lawrence could run it, maybe more than people gave him credit for, but you're dealing with a guy that's, linebacker size playing quarterback. Now at Clemson, do you expect them to do some things that maybe they haven't shown under Trevor Lawrence?
Yeah, I think you lost a lot of weapons and a lot of really talented football players at Clemson last year, the least of which is impactful the most of the quarterback position. What I mean by that is the loss of Travis Etienne is massive. The loss of their left tackle who went in the second round is massive. The loss of their 2 primary wide receivers is huge, right? I don't know if they replace those position players with players as quality as DJ Uiagalelei, if that makes sense. The step down from 16 to number 5 is not near as massive as what I expect to be the drop down of their left tackle, the drop down of their slot receiver, the drop down of their wide receiver, especially the drop down from their running back position. Travis Etienne, for those who didn't watch Clemson football over the last 4 years, I personally think he was the most important player that they had offensively. What he could do for them, turning -2s into +7s, making an offensive line that's otherwise not like nationally powerhouse impressive. They're not great, don't get me wrong. I mean, think about it. Alex Carmen, I think, is the highest rated offensive lineman they've had drafted in the last 4 or 5 years at Clemson. They're not known for a powerhouse program offensive line-wise. Yet, Travis Etienne's led the SEC, or close to leading the ACC in rushing almost every year for the last 4 years. That's how special that guy is. So I think the replacement of those other players, the quarterback's great. I mean, they replaced a number 1 overall draft pick with the next number 1 overall draft pick that they're going to have. DJ Uiagalelei is that good.
A lot of talk about how Clemson's defensive front can control this game. What about Georgia's defensive front with Jordan Davis and obviously the edge rushers, the linebackers? What's going to be the big key schematically for Georgia's defensive front?
Yeah, so I honestly, it's something funny thing we're talking about it now. Last night I took a look at Clemson's offensive line for our YouTube audience. We broke it down for almost a little over an hour. Like, we really went into depth about what it is. They're replacing 2 starters, so left tackle and their center. And honestly, the 2 returners at guard, I think they're very suspect. And you're going to start a first start at center. You're also going to start a first career start at right tackle. So yeah, good luck starting center. You're a redshirt sophomore. That's great. You've been playing at Clemson, but now you get Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, and Devontae Wyatt, all 3 of which I think are going to manhandle the interior of this offensive line from Clemson. I think it's that much of an advantage for Georgia. And then your right tackle, 64, I forget his name, but he's going to start first career start at right tackle for those guys. He is a very smart football player. He's technically sound, but honestly, he's not an overwhelming athlete, which if you're Adam Anderson, I think you're licking your chops looking at a right tackle who's probably not going to be able to hold up in a speed rush. And then left tackle-wise, they're starting number 71. I forget his name, too. I'm a numbers guy, gentlemen. He's starting at left tackle, and he's 6'2". So Nolan Smith, to me, is a football player over the first 2 years of his college career, has really struggled with tackles that have extraordinary amounts of length. Well, he's not going to get that against Clemson. I went on the record last night and said, I think, honestly, this is the best positional player versus player matchup that Nolan Smith's had in his entire college career. And I don't think that's an overstatement, because Nolan is a guy that struggles with length. Well, Clemson's going to start a left tackle that has everything but that. I mean, he's a great athlete, but he has no length. I think Nolan's going to play really, really well in this football game as well.
And Brooks, when you're breaking down all these position groups, you're looking at, offensive line versus defensive line. What group, and I say this respectfully, what group does Georgia have to cover up for, maybe having a little bit more deficiency than every other group out there? I know, this is about going to be as evenly matched as talent-wise on both sides of the ball, but is there a position group that Georgia say, look, we're going to have to protect these guys to make sure that they don't get exposed, when the game does kick off?
So what I think they're going to do, just because of the matchup in the football game, I think they're going to start Jamari Sawyer at left tackle, which means you're going to have to hide Tate Ratledge at right guard, assuming he gets his first career start in that football game. And the reason my mindset is for that logic and that reasoning is because if I'm an offensive line coach or if I'm an offensive coordinator, it's much easier for me to hide an interior offensive lineman. It's easier for me to hide a right guard than it is for me to hide an Xavier Truss or a Broderick Jones or an Amarius Mims starting for the first time out there at left tackle. If that's the case, well, as a defensive coordinator, I can do a lot of things to put that guy on an island and let my guys win my one-on-one. Let Miles Murphy eat out there. Let Brian Brzee, if he wants it, get out there and eat against that left tackle that doesn't have a ton of experience. Whereas I can hide a right guard just a little bit. So I think if you're talking about hiding a position group, I think there's a one specific group entirely to hide just because they're so well-rounded, but it's more of a one position. Can we hide a right tackle? Can we hide a left tackle depending on, or a right guard, excuse me, or can we hide a left tackle depending on what they decide to do ultimately with that starting lineup?
Brooks, finally, the Heisman odds are out. JT Daniels, the favorite per a lot of groups. You think about 5-1 odds, I believe, are out there. Do you think it's fair to say JT Daniels is the Heisman favorite?
I think that a lot of that is projection off of what people saw at SEC Media Days. There's no coincidence that after SEC Media Days, you see this swirl around hype around JT Daniels. The entire week was about how JT Daniels is finally might be the quarterback for Georgia. So you're going to get a lot of bettors coming in and putting money on Daniels, especially at decent odds, because prior to SEC Media Days, I think he was third or fourth highest favorite in the Heisman race. So is he going to put up Heisman production statistics? I think so. I think he goes north of 4,000 yards. But we all know what that's all about. Heisman trophies are won in December, right? You're going to have to go out in the SEC championship game and win a football game. You're going to have to win an SEC title to win a Heisman trophy. That's the real question. Can Georgia get over the Bama hurdle, which is the one we've been asking for, the last 4 years, guys? So if you want to ask me that question, I'm going to punt on that one, too. I don't really know. We're going to have to find out.
Brooks Austin, Dogs Daily on SI, our guest here on 3 and Out, and we'll find out Georgia Clemson in just a little bit over a month. Brooks, always a pleasure. Thanks much.
Y'all be good. I'm going to go back to work.
All right, sounds good. Brooks Austin joining us here on 3 and Out. As again, Georgia Clemson coming up right there on Labor Day weekend to help us get the college football season started off in a big, big way. We've got more to come here on 3 and Out. Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, will join us coming up in hour 2. Also, D. Orlando Ledbetter, AJC, covering the Falcons, will join us next hour as well. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Full hour 2 coming up right around the corner. We've got Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, D. Orlando Ledbetter, going to talk some Falcons with us from the AJC. I know Trevor Lawrence, BJ, apparently looked human today at practice. And now all the same reporters who are saying he threw the best ball they've ever seen come off a NFL quarterback's arm are now saying, look, don't freak out. It's just practice, man. What are we talking about? Talking about practice.
Speaking of practice, did you see Tim Tebow had one of the highlights of the weekend for what he did? He had a diving touchdown catch in the back of the end zone. Lawrence to Tebow, man. Look, shout out to Tim Tebow. Going out there, working, and back of the end zone. Trevor Lawrence in the play had to kind of scramble out of the pocket to the left, about 20 yards out. Throws one, finds Tebow Ben streaking across the back of the end zone. He dives, makes the catch, touchdown, deal with it. Tebow highlights over the weekend for the Jags.
BJ, don't start with that nonsense. See, BJ, I knew this was gonna happen. Like, this is what me and Kevin, fear. What you just did. Now think about this. What is the one denominator in practice that doesn't happen in the game? Quarterbacks can't get hit in practice. So all this, he extended the play. Because you can't touch him. He stepped up in the pocket. Now, is Tim Tebow athletic? Yes. Did Tim Tebow make an acrobatic catch, BJ? But something you said, BJ, that I think scares me. Man, what if Tim Tebow end up being good? Based on what? Like how we judge all tight ends or Tim Tebow the tight end? No. Trevor Lawrence has been getting the same publicity since he came from Cartersville High School. Or Cartersville, I don't want to say it's Cartersville High School, but I'm saying, I know that are they the Purple Hurricanes? I think they're the Hurricane. At the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence has to be sold every time he makes public appearances. I mean, his walk out to practice, the golden locks. I mean, the arm is there. I mean, look at how complimentary his teammates are. Man, that dude got an arm. Does he? That's called all 32 quarterbacks. I'm just saying. But shout out to Trevor Lawrence, shout out to Tebow Mania, but they still can't tackle number 22, up there in Nashville.
And so it begins. We will chat with Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter. When we come back, we'll get the very latest there with Trevor Lawrence et al. There in Jacksonville. It's 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We are streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com. Love to hear from you on Twitter as well, at Pigskin Radio, at Pigskin Radio. Good to have you back here, 3 and Out on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, glad you are with us. A lot to come here. Hour 2, the Orlando Ledbetter, Atlanta Journal-Constitution will join us. We'll talk some Falcons football with him, and the Jags back at it as well. We'll look at Jags football right now with our next guest, Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, joining us here on the 3 and Out. Ashlyn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? Thank you for having me.
Hey, we're doing fantastic. So obviously the reviews for Trevor Lawrence have been pretty good. What have you seen here early on about Trevor, and I guess basically the offense in general that has been good?
Yeah, it's been really promising to see with Trevor how every single day he seems to be more comfortable, more confident in the pocket than he did the previous day. And he started off pretty good, so that says a lot that he's moving on up. I will say today was the roughest day we saw from him. They brought in a blitz package during the team period, and he struggled with the timing a bit, but that's totally normal for a rookie quarterback. But he said in his press conference, I've had rough days at practice before, and I know how to bounce back. So tomorrow we're curious to see how this goes because the pads do come on tomorrow for the first day, but he has exceeded expectations on and off the field, and definitely just seems like he has such a command over the offense from the start to finish, which has only been a week.
And how is Lawrence handling all of the attention and the hype and the expectations that are clearly there?
Honestly, it sounds cliche, and you hear that, oh, he's just a normal dude and he doesn't listen to it, but I've never seen something more true with a player than him. He just seems like he really, truly doesn't care what people say and doesn't pay attention to it. He mentioned he's not on social media that much. He really doesn't hear much at all what people say about him. And I think he's also used to it. We saw him running out on the field at practice, and fans are screaming, yelling. I mean, it's this huge standing ovation when Trevor walks on the practice field, but he's also coming from a major college program where he's totally used to that. It really hasn't changed much for him, and it shows that he can handle it. And when I say he is the most normal of guys, that is truly it.
So from a normal guy to a not so normal guy, maybe his following, you are out there to experience this thing called Tebow Mania. Actually, how would you describe Tebow Mania in one word?
Crazy. And I'd say just because you see it from the outside and you see what fans see and you see the following he has. And it's awesome to see how he's so loved and he has so many fans. I say it is the complete and utter opposite when you enter the building. He is truly just one of 90 trying to make this team. He goes around and introduces himself and says, "Hi, I'm Tim." And players are like, "Yeah, man, I know who you are. You're Tim Tebow." But when I say he has just come in and tried to be as normal as possible and stress that he is at right now near the bottom of the tight end depth chart, right now he's just every single day trying to make this team.
Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, joining us here on 3 and Out. Behind Trevor Lawrence, you have his teammate Travis Etienne. What's the kind of early reviews on him? And do you think the Jags are going to try to use him as an every down back, or is it going to be one of those like we see an Alvin Kamara type where it's just give him the ball and let him make a play?
Yeah, I think you would more so categorize it as an offensive playmaker, an offensive weapon. I think when you have to pick your every down back, that's going to be James Robinson. But the good thing is they have a bunch of fresh legs in that running back room that they didn't have last season. James Robinson had over 1,000 yards and was a back almost first down, second down, third down. And it definitely seemed like he got almost overworked by the end of the season. So now you have the option with Travis Etienne to throw him in there. But we've seen him work a ton at wide receiver as well, and he seems to really enjoy that. So I would categorize him more as an offensive weapon than anything.
How has Laviska Shenault done this camp?
Incredible. I would say we talk all the time about who is wide receiver one. And we get fan questions all the time. Well, there has to be a wide receiver one. And truthfully, I especially with this team, I don't think there needs to be. You can make the argument it is Laviska, or maybe it's DJ Chark, or maybe it's Marvin Jones. But Laviska Shenault is the most notable, changed his body over the offseason than anyone else on this roster. He put on over 15 pounds of muscle, is noticeably much bigger, much faster. I think more than anyone, he committed this offseason to improving the second year. So I think the sky's the limit for that guy this season.
Guys like Chason going into his second year. I mean, you look at Henderson going into their second year. A lot of a lot of young guys at some key spots. How was that defense come along? And I mean, how much pressure is Urban Meyer putting on them practice in and practice out?
Yeah, I will say there is a lot of pressure, especially on the defensive line. It's no secret that the defensive line, most notably, could not stop the run last season, and that took them out of a ton of games. So that was the biggest thing, is you just needed bigger bodies on the defensive line, and they brought that in with free agents Malcolm Brown and Roy Robertson Harris, just to name a few. But you look at especially the toll it took on the young guys last season with COVID and all the shakeups and not being on the practice field as much as they would have liked. I think a guy like Caleb on Chason is really going to improve from head coach Urban Meyer's system and the coaching, just because his rookie year, he really didn't have that. So this is a guy that needs to take the big step, and they're definitely paying a lot of attention to him because the Jaguars need him to take that step as well.
Talking with Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter. You mentioned Urban Meyer. What's kind of your read on him and how he's adapting to the pro game? And does he feel like he's, kind of acclimating himself to the pro environment?
For sure. And I think it's telling, because I will admit, when he first got hired and I was reading all about him, I'd never spoken to him before. I thought, okay, well, this is going to be the my way or the highway coach. And he's known to be such a powerful, strong, opinionated coach that, okay, well, this is how it's going to go. And truly, it's gone the complete opposite of that. He hired Darrell Bevell and Brian Schottenheimer from Seattle, and he's mentioned many times that he's surrounding himself with this NFL talent and this NFL experience. And he's been saying almost every day, he's going to them and saying, I don't know how this works. Can you help me out? And asking a ton of questions. So it's been totally opposite of what I assumed it would be. And he definitely is using all the tools in his toolbox and all these connections to the NFL to his advantage.
A lot of excitement, a lot of energy around the Jaguars, needless to say. How does Jacksonville kind of take that and turn it into real momentum on the field? I mean, or is that even realistic? Kind of what are your expectations for the excitement level that we see now once the season gets here? And, if you look at past results, you may lose some games.
For sure. And I think that's the biggest question when you look at Trevor Lawrence and you look at Urban Meyer. They haven't lost in college football very few times. So the biggest question is, okay, well, we all know they're most likely going to lose a couple games here or there, and maybe there is a 2-game, 3-game losing streak. How does it change? How does it adapt? And we won't know till we get there. But I will say, you have kind of two sides. You have the fans that think playoffs are bust and look at all this talent. But you also have the fans that remember this team was 1-15 7 months ago. And it takes a while to fill those holes on the roster. And there were a lot of holes. I think the biggest concern right now is, did they do enough up front to stop the run? That was so glaring of a need. And you make the argument, they brought in a couple guys, but is it enough? And we won't know till football season, but you definitely have two sides of the spectrum with fans here in Jacksonville, which you would expect.
Gardner Minshew made a lot of waves when he said number 2 is not an option for him. Obviously, he's a very charismatic guy, a guy that's definitely going to go out there and compete. How has he been throughout camp, and are they giving him a legitimate shot to compete for the starting job?
Oh, yeah. I mean, more legitimate than I ever thought. They switch off first-team reps every day. So today was Trevor's day to take reps with the 2, and Gardner Minshew was with the 1s, and every day it's completely flipped. They have given him an incredibly fair chance. And right now, Gardner Minshew is the starter for this team. Coach Meyer has said many times, we will not hand Trevor the starting job, and he wants to take complete subjectivity out of where you were drafted, how you got here. So right now, Gardner Minshew is the starting quarterback for this team. Now, everyone assumes that will change at some point, but they're giving him a very fair chance, and there are some days where Gardner Minshew goes out there and looks great. Then there's some days where the things that definitely challenged him in the past come back. But I love the mindset. You would expect nothing less. He's not going to say, sure, take over my starting job. I mean, you want to hear that he's competing and giving it its all. And I definitely agree with that. He's kind of changed his personality more so. Like, you don't really see a lot of the funny stuff he used to do on social media and the jorts and the mullet and all that. That's all gone. And it seems like he is incredibly focused on this one job to make this team and have a solid shot to be the starter.
Do you believe Urban Meyer, though? I mean, is that just something you have to say? Or is it like, Trevor, we're not going to say he's our starting quarterback, but he's going to have to lose it for us to not be that. Do you believe that that's actually the case, that he's not going to be the starter game one?
I don't believe it. No, I think when you have the number 1 overall pick, he will be the starting quarterback at some point. But I also do believe what head coach Urban Meyer is saying is that it's not going to happen overnight. And there are some things Trevor needs to work on. I mean, I talked about the practice today where he had a couple turnovers and the timing's off, and there's still things that need to be worked out. If they're not worked out by the preseason, if they're not worked out by week 1, I don't think Urban Meyer's going to have any problem with starting Gardner Minshew. But in my opinion, I think the ball is completely different when Trevor Lawrence throws it to Gardner Minshew, and I think he's the franchise quarterback. But it's not my decision, and I think with time will tell. It might not be next week, but I think definitely in a month it'll be different.
Ashlyn Sullivan, Jaguars team reporter, our guest here on 3 and Out. Ashlyn, really appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Ashlyn Sullivan joining us. BJ and Ben, we'll chat with D. Orlando Ledbetter coming up here in just a little bit. But before we step aside, I'll ask you what I just asked her. Do you believe Urban Meyer? Ben, you've been in locker rooms. I mean, how much of that is you have to put lip service out there like, hey, we drafted him number 1. Everybody knows he's awesome, but he's not the starter. I mean, like, or would you rather them come in and go, no, this dude is who we're riding with. Better get behind him now.
I think he has to learn how to do both, because what Urban Meyer is not realizing that the players pick the players. And I know that sounds crazy, but he can't come out and say he's going to be the guy, get out there and practice, and the veterans going, I mean, just because you go number 1 don't mean you're ready to be number 1. He goes out there and prove it. Then when Gardner Minshew don't have to worry about not being, it's happening in practice. Both guys get to go with the first team. And we got to understand too, Urban Meyer, he's a rookie too. I know what he's done to Ohio State and in Florida and all these different places, but this is Jacksonville. He got to go out there and prove it as a head coach. The last thing you want to do is start giving away stuff. Tim Tebow is already getting to compete because y'all live in the same neighborhood, and y'all went to both kids, christening. It's fine. Ain't nobody gonna say anything. Trevor Lawrence is gonna have to earn it, and we know he's eventually gonna be the starter, Kevin, because he's number 1 overall pick. But if he can prove it every day in practice, it makes the decision much easier come game 1.
Well, and I wonder too, could Gardner Minshew, yes, obviously be playing to compete? I mean, I do think that the opportunity to kind of prolong this, potentially it's there, the idea of a quarterback battle. Now, I agree with Ashlyn. I think Trevor Lawrence is your starting quarterback game 1 for a number of reasons. But is there any merit to the idea that Gardner Minshew could be playing for an opportunity elsewhere? I mean, I think he's shown that he's a viable NFL quarterback, and seems like every day, with the Wentz stuff or whatever, there's rumors on social media, not rumors from reporters, but of fans saying, hey, well, could you trade Gardner Minshew to this team? This is a guy that has played pretty well in stretches. I mean, could he have an opportunity, if it's not with Jacksonville, to start again? Maybe with another team, maybe even this season?
I mean, injuries happen all the time. You look at what's going on right now with the Colts. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do with Carson Wentz, being injured. How many weeks out? How many weeks is Deshaun Watson going to get suspended once the league does, suspend him? Yes, Gardner. I mean, 'cause let's face it. Outside of the top 10, maybe top 15 quarterbacks, there is a huge drop off. I do think Gardner Minshew is a starter, and I want a backup saying I don't want to play number 2. I don't want a guy that's comfortable saying I'm fine with, mentoring a guy. I'm too young to be mentoring a guy. Gardner Minshew is not that much older, than Trevor Lawrence if you're talking about mentoring a certain guy, but he knows that the best thing going for him is the way he practices, the type of teammate he is, because when other teams call and indeed want to trade for his services, the person going to be speaking on your behalf might be your agent, but the person that's going to do the most for your career will be the head coach, will be the quarterback coach, and will be the OC. So Gardner Minshew, he going to have to play nice in public.
We'll see how it shapes out as they move forward. We got just three preseason games this year in the NFL. So you don't get that extra week if you really have a evaluation in mind there in the NFL this season. We'll come back. We'll get ready for D. Orlando Ledbetter, who'll join us coming up in about 20 minutes. We'll also look at who are some of the best of the last 20 years and putting out talent in college football. Who can really claim that position you championship, if you will. We'll break down some of those lists when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. And we will talk with D'Orlando Ledbetter. We'll talk some Falcons coming up here in about 15 minutes here on the show as the Falcons in the midst of their training camp. Certainly don't have the quarterback questions that the Jags do, but everybody wanting to know about Kyle Pitts, and certainly everybody wanting to know about this Atlanta Falcons defense that they're going to be running out as well. But BJ, ESPN.com put out the position U. Everybody wants to go, oh, we're DBU. We're running back U. I know, Ben, we talk about this. You like to hype the Gators. Hey, we're DBU or what have you. People like to do this. So they put out since 1998 moving forward, the team rankings of who actually stakes claim to, hey, we're DBU, we're quarterback U. Let's start there with the quarterbacks. Oklahoma, I'm guessing over Heisman trophies alone. That's why they're probably number one. But
Yes.
Oklahoma 1, USC 2, Oregon, Louisville, and Texas. Alabama, despite the fact of what we've seen recently, all the way down at number 7, though, since 2008, hasn't almost every quarterback that's played for Nick Saban got a national championship at the end of the day. But BJ, your thoughts there?
All right, you're talking about guys going to the league and playing at the next level. You don't have NC State in the top 10 on this list. I got to give a shout out to your Wolfpack, Kevin. Listen, you're talking about quarterbacks over the last 20 years. You have Phillip Rivers. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. You have Russell Wilson. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame. And I know people say, Russell Wilson, he came out of Wisconsin. That was his senior year. His freshman, sophomore, and junior year, he was at NC State, and he was breaking all kind of records, was a big-time playmaker at NC State.
Oh, BJ, I mean, it's very true. You forget about some of those, and we actually reached out and got a comment from Dave Doran. Can't play that comment. Oh, man, he was like, I mean, Dave is like right on it. Right there. Go ahead, BJ. I'll let you continue. He's always animated and ready to go. I made Cam jump out of his chair.
Yeah,
he wasn't.
I'm going to ignore that.
I'm
going to ignore that and move on. You have Russell Wilson and Phillip Rivers. You also have Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett's been a good quarterback in the league. You also have Ryan Finley. He's been a good quarterback. He's started games in the NFL. NC State, Kevin's NC State Wolfpack have to be in the top 10 on the quarterback U list.
I mean, yeah, we do get caught up in the Regency stuff. And what was funny, BJ, what you ain't get to see, I mean, when Kevin said, play Coach Dorn, play Coach Dorn. I mean, Cam looking like, wait a minute, man, ain't nobody. And I was like, Cam, you played it. Trust me. When you finally get to meet Coach Dorn, you'll see what Kevin. I mean, that's Kevin's favorite coach in college. By the way, we have a picture of Coach Dorn looking at Kevin at AC Media Days in 2019. We're gonna have to show you. But no, BJ. I mean, Oklahoma. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if they put USC over Oklahoma. I know that Oklahoma had back-to-back. Whoa. Just wait a second. Wait a second. Okay. I mean, Oklahoma, okay, in that span, they got three Heisman Trophy winners, right? How many? They got one national championship. I mean, we're
talking about going to the pros. We're not talking about national championships.
I'm just saying, hold on, we talking about college now. Hold on. I mean, Carson Palmer, number 1 overall pick, won the Heisman. Matt Leinart only played in national championships. That's it. And he only lost because of that dude, Vince Young, but Oregon, I mean.
But dude, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, Sam Bradford. I mean, come on, man.
I mean, okay, so basically somebody has to lose in these natties, so might as well. Anyway, I'm just saying, I mean, BJ, I mean, Texas, now I'm just saying, you talking about the resume. Texas got some dudes now. I mean, VY the legend, Colt McCoy, who, if Adama Suit don't knock him out, Florida State, wow. I mean, the headliner. I mean, how many first rounders, BJ? I mean, what? Christian Ponder.
You got Ponder, you got Manuel, you got Jameis, you got 3.
I mean, and obviously because they started in '98, old Chris Winkie, he's in there, even though I think he had just had his 30th birthday in '98. But I'm just saying, and then LSU. I mean, Jamarcus Russell, he started? Would you consider him, starting it all? But they won a natty in 2004. Matt Malk. And those guys, and then you look at what they've done as of late. Auburn, though.
Matt Flynn.
I mean,
Zach Mettenberger.
Clemson.
Joe Burrow. Anybody ever heard of him?
I know what that's like. Obviously.
Clemson. BJ, you don't think it's egregious that Clemson is number 9?
Well, I think a lot of theirs come within the last 6 or 7 years on this list. I think that's probably some of the problem.
I mean, when you talking about people being disrespectful to Russell Wilson, how disrespectful is it to Taj Boyd? he started it all when you talking about Clemson, and then they went on a run with all these guys. But yeah, I think the list is incredible. I'm just saying, BJ, don't be jumping down my neck because Lincoln Riley got a nice little run going on. You know, I'm just saying, them young boys from USC, they would beg to differ with this list right now.
We got to keep moving quickly. We go over to running backs. Alabama, number one. I mean, that kind of goes without saying. They've had so many guys who are just dominant in college.
Sean Alexander, Glenn Coffey.
Go on to the pros. But kind of surprising, you look at, given all the running backs they've had, Georgia down there at 9. Now, I think actually Auburn should probably be a little higher on this list, given some of the guys they have over LSU. But kind of surprising that Georgia, given the pretty consistent stable of running backs that they've had, is as far down that list as they are.
All right, and you're talking about college to the pros, right? The last 20 years, the last 21, 22 years, Georgia's got to be higher than 9th. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, DeAndre Swift, Todd Gurley, Knowshon Marino, Danny Ware, Keith Marshall, Musa Smith, all these guys and others going to the NFL over the last 20 years. Come on, man. I understand. Look, I got nothing but respect. You talk about Alabama, Wisconsin, LSU, Miami. Kevin, I know you're an Auburn guy. But look, I think it's Georgia at 9? At 9? Ben, come on.
I mean, man, this RBU is always going to be, Georgia, they putting them out, BJ. Alabama, Wisconsin, LSU, Miami. Miami. People talking. My goodness, you talking about a string of running backs. You went from Edgerrin James to Clinton Portis to Frank Gore to Willis McGahee, and the list goes on and on. They own the list. I will say that.
Dallas, Duke Johnson.
Yeah, when you make these lists, it's supposed to cause an uproar. When you look,
Sure.
Oklahoma, as good as Oklahoma is with quarterbacks, they are just as good. Purifying those boys, at Oklahoma, BJ, they had a string of guys.
I don't know. I'm so amazed that Auburn is down because you think of the Cadillac Williams, the Ronnie Browns.
You had the number 2 and the number 5 overall pick in the same backfield.
Brandon Jacobs, guys like that. But then the guys you forget about are like the Rudy Johnsons. It's like Rudy Johnson started for the Bengals for several seasons.
What about Kerryon Johnson? What about Kerryon Johnson?
Yeah, exactly. So, you've had
Trey Mason.
You had a bunch of guys who have been great in college and gone on and done some great things in the pros. Quickly, I got to go to those pass catchers, wide receiver. BJ, they got Southern Cal sitting there at number 1. LSU, too. Boy, LSU is in the top 10 on a bunch of these offensive lists. Oklahoma, 3. Alabama, 4 at the wide receiver spot.
Clemson at 9? What are we talking about? Clemson at 9? Hold on a second. DeAndre Hopkins, Sammy Watkins, Martavis Bryant, Adam Humphries, Jacoby Ford, Mike Williams, T. Higgins, Hunter Renfrow, Amari Rogers. Clemson at 9? What are we talking about?
And they put the Florida boys right in front of them Clemson boys right there at number 8. Whoever making this list, you're obviously making good decisions. But no, it's supposed to be hard though, right? It's supposed to be controversial, right though, Kevin? It's not going to be to your liking. But yeah, BJ, once again, we get caught up in the recency bias. If Clemson ain't wide receiver you right now, I know what LSU is doing as of late. But Clemson been doing it for a minute, well before Dabo Swinney was the head man.
All right, 30 seconds. Who's tied in you? They have Florida number 4, so you would be included on that list, Ben. But Miami at 1, Iowa 2, Stanford 3, Florida 4. Who's tied in you?
It's Miami, and it's running away. Even though Iowa is right there, we talking about Dallas Clark and Noah Fant and Hawkinson and those boys. But I think for me, it's Miami. Bubba Franks. Then you had Shockey. Then you had Kellen Winslow. Then you had Greg Olsen. I can't even remember right now. BJ that played for the Saints. I can't. Jimmy Graham. Thank you.
Joku,
Jimmy Graham. They got David and Joku. I'm just saying. If you want to play the tight end position and you want to go to the pros, go to University of Florida.
Hey, we'll come. You mean? Nah, I see what you did there, Tia. We'll come back. We'll talk Falcons football. We'll probably talk about some tight ends with D. Orlando Ledbetter when we come back. It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Who's the guy that played for Green Bay? Good to have you here on this Monday. It's 3 and Out. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Glad you're making us a part of your day as we are streaming live ESPNCoastal.com as well as the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Our next guest joining us here from the AJC covers the Atlanta Falcons. D. Orlando Ledbetter joins us. Daryl, welcome to the show again. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on the show today.
I know you've gotten now up close and personal looks at Kyle Pitts and just how good do you think Kyle Pitts will be for Atlanta, given some early reviews here?
Yeah, he looks the part. You know, we had 4 practices thus far, no pads yet. So, looks good moving around in different spots. They have him flanked out at times in the slot and in line, which are all 3 of his options at tight end. So they're definitely trying to get him ready to play. Ryan said you could see the athletic talent. It's just a matter of the small details of learning the position. And if he stays the course and just keeps progressing, everything should be just fine.
Daryl, how often are we going to see Kyle and Hayden Hurst together in 2 tight end sets for Atlanta?
You're going to see that a lot. You're going to see that. You're going to even see some 3 tight end stuff with Lee Smith in there as a blocker. Arthur Smith, he did it with Tennessee. He had 4 tight ends play over 200 snaps last year. That's the way he likes to attack out of those double tight end sets with 1 back or sometimes 2. So we're going to see a lot of power football with the Atlanta Falcons.
And how much more dangerous is that going to make that offense? Daryl, I know most of the time we get so caught up in these, exotic looking offenses trying to get into motion and different things. How much more dangerous does it make Atlanta knowing I'm going to try to have my best athletes on the field all at the same time?
Yeah, no question about it, Ben. They're going to, try to run the ball. It's no real question about that. And if they could run the football, that's going to unleash those other weapons. You got Mike Davis back there, Cordarrelle Patterson. We'll see what Quadri Ellison can do. He doesn't have Derrick Henry, but he's going to still try to establish the run and then throw off of the play action fakes, the rollouts, the back end. It is a mutation of the Kyle Shanahan attack, which Matt Ryan won the MVP in. So if they can get the ball moving downhill on people, then they could unleash Ridley, Gage, Pitts, and Hurst in the passing attack.
The Orlando Ledbetter, our guest here on 3 and Out. Daryl, obviously we expect, because you have Matt Ryan and those weapons still on offense, the offense to be just fine. Defensively, though, what are they trying to get done here in the preseason?
Yeah, they got to establish, who's going to be coming off the edges. Fowler's out right now, so Steven Means and Jacob Toyota Murner are getting a lot of action at the outside linebacker spot. It's going to be 3-4 base, and then, you got to settle that secondary. The front and the secondary are the big questions. Fabian Moreau looks like the leader at right cornerback. Isaiah Oliver and Richie Grant look like the nickels. You're going to try to play Darren Hall, and you got the veteran safeties, Deron Harmon and Eric Harris, and then A.J. Terrell on the left side. So, they're going to try to, confuse people, disguise things, fire zone blitzes, blitzes out of spot, safety corner blitzes, whatever they could do to generate a pass rush. And that's where Dean Pease is at. He's putting a lot of stuff in. And then we'll start to see if they can execute it here, starting with the scrimmage on Saturday, and then when they host Tennessee for the first exhibition game on August the 13th.
Daryl, do the Falcons feel like they have a true number 1 corner, a cornerback 1 on this roster?
Yeah, they think A.J. Terrell is that CB1. He was last year. He got beat a lot. Most of that was early because wasn't used to the double moves of the pro receivers. But as the season went on, he progressed. He was the best cornerback in the first round last year. He played better than Jeff Okunda, and who was taken 5th, and then C.J. Henderson, who only got in 8 games with Jacksonville, who was taken 9th. So it was a good start, not having for him not having an off season. So, he's used to the routes now. He's been working hard against Calvin Ridley in practice. So he's going to go into his year 2 as the CB1 for the Atlanta Falcons.
And Daryl, how is Arthur Smith demeanor being? I know that him coming over, from Tennessee, people always talk about the learning curve for the players or the rookies. It's also a learning curve when this is your first time being a head coach. What has been your take on him these first couple of practices?
Yeah, he looks real comfortable, Ben. He's been preparing for this. He's moving around, not spending one all his time with the offense. Real comfortable. He planned on being a head coach for a long time. Now he's in charge, and he's gonna make sure they do it his way. He's no nonsense practices, not a whole lot of extra steps, extra motion, very organized practices. So he's off to a good start too.
And again, that was kind of the stepping into the big chair there, if you will, of the head coach's role. How do you handle being the guy? And as you said, it sounds like it's going well for him. When's like the kind of first real, I guess, milestone you're looking for where you get a sense of how he's really handling the head coach role?
Yeah, we'll see as the exhibition season unfolds, because he's going to be calling his own plays too. But I think the really good thing for him and what he really did to help himself out is he got a bunch of veteran NFL coaches here on the staff, guys that have been in the league, 10, 15, 20 years. Dean Pease, of course, coming out of retirement. So, if he doesn't know the answer, he's got it somewhere on the staff. So, and that shows in practice and how they're getting ready, for the exhibition season. The 11-on-11s look sharp, 7-on-7s look good. They'll put the pads on tomorrow for the first time. So we'll see how that looks. It's a lot of guys who made the all-OTA team. But once you put the pads on, that's when the real football players start to show up.
I know it's early, first couple of days, like you mentioned, but does this look and feel like a team that expects to make the playoffs, Daryl?
No, I don't. I wouldn't say it's an obvious playoff team. They got way too many questions that have to be answered. It's just the fact that they were 27th in rushing and the quarterback was running for his life last year. We have to get that six first. Can they score in the red zone? We know what that was last year. And then defensively, you have the worst secondary in the league, giving up 293.6 yards a game. So those are about 8 different variables that have to go right. If you get 6 of them right, maybe you can make a push. If you can get all of them right, everything falls into place, then you got a shot, and you look at the start of the schedule. They got the Jets, Giants, Washington, Eagles, and, Tom Brady. If they can get out the gate 4-1, that'll be a good foundation for them to start getting some momentum and move on down the line.
And Daryl, regardless of if this team is going to be making the playoffs or not, what position group is going to have to make a big jump in 2021 for Atlanta to even be respectable, as a team this year?
Offensive line, Ben, they're giving up 133 sacks the last 4 years. They got to run the ball. They can't protect Matt Ryan. They can't have him dropping back 40 times a game. So that's the offensive line. They can get 5 guys to go up there and mash people in the outside zone game, and Mike Davis gets the foot in the ground and go. They got a shot. But it's definitely got to be the offensive line. All those weapons are really nice looking on paper and everything, but if he can't get them the ball, it won't matter. So that's a big group for me. And then the secondary's gotta be respectable. You can't have guys just streaming up and down the field wide open like we saw last year.
The Orlando Ledbetter joining us here on 3 and Out. And Daryl, obviously this year, some changes in the NFL, just 3 preseason games given the turnover in staff. And as you said, you're trying to revamp in certain areas the worst defense in the National Football League. Can you make all those evaluations in 3 preseason games?
Yeah, I think they can, because they've got veteran coaches. They got a lot of scouts in here, and what's going to be interesting is that even not so much their roster, but all the rosters around the league, the pro personnel department's got to be busy, because you might be getting players cut from other teams that could come in here and play. So they got the fourth spot on the waiver wire. So I'm not getting married to this 90-man roster because even when they get down to 60 and then they're making their decisions down to 45 and 53, we got to see maybe a running back shakes loose, maybe a left guard shakes loose, and maybe heck, they know they need some pass rushers. Maybe an outside linebacker comes free that they could bring in here. So we're in that part of team building. This is where the roster is. They're trying to reset the franchise, and they got to look at all avenues to build the roster back up.
Better our guest here on 3 and Out. Daryl, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Sure, no problem, Kevin, Ben, and BJ. You all take care, and thanks for having me.
Will do. Thanks much. D. Orlando Ledbetter always does great work covering the Atlanta Falcons there as the Falcons starting out training camp. And, of course, all eyes there at the tight end spot, Kyle Pitts, Hayden Hurst, and what the Falcons could do offensively. And I think we as Falcons fans have come so accustomed to the offensive side of the ball, Ben and BJ, that you forget the defense was kind of there last year. And you hated any time they had to give the ball back and let the defense go out there.
Well, and Daryl talked about the need for improvement up front and then improvement in the secondary. And I think they go hand in hand, right? I mean, if you're not rushing the passer consistently, it's not surprising that you're going to be near the bottom or at the bottom of the defensive stats in terms of pass defense because you can't guard guys for 3, 4, 5 seconds. So if you want the secondary to take a step forward, I think, yes, that depends on guys coming together in better depth and guys improving, but it also depends on having a consistent pass rush. And I don't think, sometimes, Ben, I think we misevaluate pass rush. Pass rush doesn't have to mean you get the sack, right? Like only a couple of plays a game, you're going to get a sack at best. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a Vic Beasley leading the league in sacks or a John Abraham with 10, 12 sacks every year, but you've got to pressure the quarterback. You've got to disrupt timing. You've got to force the quarterback out of the pocket. And I think there were times where Atlanta didn't even do that well last year. So you got to be disruptive at the point of attack.
With so much talk about what these tight ends going to do, with so much talk about what these DBs going to have to do with AJ Terrell, isn't it crazy, BJ and Kevin? It comes down to offensive line and defensive line play. If the defense can get a rush, that's going to take less pressure off a young secondary. If the offensive line can gel, that's going to mean you're going to run the football and you get to go out there and see what this 2 tight ends, sometimes 3 tight end set is going to be. So I know it's about the flashy guys that get out there and make the plays. But if you can't keep your quarterback upright, if you can't make sure the other quarterback is uncomfortable, it's really not going to matter.
Falcons training camp. We'll talk more about that. Obviously, Hayden Hurst had some interesting quotes from Falcons training camp earlier, talking about him and Kyle Pitts there for the Atlanta Falcons. We'll get to that coming up in the final hour. It is 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Coming out of the final hour, we'll get to take three. We've been filled up talking NFL football here this hour. Also, look at Hayden Hurst. Had some interesting comments about his role with the Falcons, along with Kyle Pitts as well. The Braves finally get a night off tonight as they get ready to take on St. Louis in St. Louis tomorrow. Braves can neither gain ground nor lose ground to the Mets. They just kind of are in the midst. And now it's almost comical as to how long this run's going to go on. 17 games in a row, alternating wins and losses. So win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. They lost yesterday, which, means they need to win tomorrow. Tomorrow, BJ, that's how it goes, right? And thusly, by just the way the schedule breaks, they'll win 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals.
Well, and what's helped the Braves during this is the Mets haven't exactly been great. The Mets have kind of struggled to pull away. I mean, the Atlanta Braves have not had a winning streak in a couple of weeks, and they're still only 4 games back. So as frustrating as the ups and downs have been, I think you realize you're still in position. A couple of days ago, you added some new pieces to the team. You feel like over time, those guys are going to make plays, and you feel like you're in position. That's all you can ask for. I mean, you're 4 games out. This is going to be a division thing. You're not going to make the wild card. You got some matchups with the Mets coming up, but I think it's important when you're playing a team that you feel like you're clearly better than, the Nationals, the Marlins, to really have success in those series. But yeah, big series with St. Louis, needless to say, coming up. And Ben, my heavens, we're not asking for a lot, just a winning streak here, 2 wins in a row.
Yeah, that seems to be the hardest thing for the Braves. I mean, this year. I mean, the Braves, they always get known for something every year, Kevin. I mean, one year they were the best team, after 8 innings. I mean, they was the most exciting teams. I mean, they can win it or lose it. This year is they can't win 2 games in a row. I mean, what is going on? But I will say that the winning culture that has been built in Atlanta is showing, because you got a lot of your key pieces, none bigger than Ronald Acuna Jr. not being in the lineup, and they still finding a way to make this thing very, very exciting when everybody in your division or around is you was dumping players because of those contracts. So yeah, I'm still very, very impressed by Atlanta. But come on, man, if you could just get 2 in a row, who knows, Kevin? 2 in a row could become 3 in a row. If Atlanta finds a way to win the NL East this year, I mean, and Kevin, what would you rank that as far as like Snit putting together this roster and really make it, and we're not putting together, making sure these guys keep it together.
I mean, considering they've been pretty average, and with all the injuries, I think he's done actually an okay job given what he's had to work with much of the year. Thought the moves at the trade deadline really helped him out moving forward. We'll see if they can kind of pick up some momentum. We'll come back, final hour next. Great to be back here with you, 3 and Out on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben, all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. We're streaming live, ESPNCoastal.com, also live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can catch the show each and every day here as well. We'll get to some more Falcons talk in just a little bit. Hayden Hurst had some comments there from training camp. We'll get to take 3 in just a little bit. But BJ and Ben, you got the book up for pre-order now, Ben. Tell folks all about that and how they can get. Well, why are you making a face?
No.
Ben,
I'm just saying.
it's like,
just no. I mean, first and foremost, I'm truly humbled to be able to say my book is coming out. BJ, did a great job of writing the book. It's called Uncommon and Unfinished. You can go to bentroop84.com, /shop. You can go and pre-order, your book right now. You can pre-order. It should be coming out around around September 21st is when it should come out. But you can go ahead and get your pre-order the book right now. Go to bentroop84.com /shop and to pre-order your copy of the book. It's Uncommon Unfinished, about the Ben Troop story with BJ Bennett. But BJ, it was a long time coming. 2020 gave us an opportunity to really hunker down and get this thing done. It's, the process was more than worth the result, and I'm looking forward to the book being in our hands. But yes, go to bentroop84.com /shop to get your book pre-ordered. It should, like I said, it should be here around September 21st.
Yeah, really excited, and Ben, it was an honor for me. It was a privilege. It was something that was life altering, was life changing. Getting to know you and your story and your family and kind of who you are. Something we talk about in the book is a lot of people know who you are for the great plays, for the incredible moments, and the game winner against Georgia down in Jacksonville in 2002. Your senior day against Florida State, jumping over people in college against Ole Miss, and the pros against the Falcons, catching touchdown passes against Brian Dawkins, and all the great stuff you did. But your individual story as a person is so inspiring, so uplifting, and so encouraging. And I'm really excited for people to get to learn more about you, the individual. And yeah, bentroop84.com. Pre-order that thing, coming out in mid-September, and just really excited. Appreciate you letting us talk about it for a minute, Kevin. And it's you're a special guy. You have a special family, and really excited for people to get to learn more about you and learn your story.
So pre-order that. Tell folks where they can pre-order it again, Ben.
bentroop84.com /shop. Says bentroop, BENTROUPE 84.com /shop to get your pre-order. Your book is called Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story with BJ Bennett. And I'm looking forward to you guys just learn about me, learn about my family. It's really about the people, places, and things that make me who I am, what I am, and hopefully what I am becoming. But it is humbling, BJ. Thank God, BJ, you love to write, because this thing wouldn't have been coming out. But it is coming out. bentroop84.com /shop. Uncommon and Unfinished, the Ben Troop story, BJ Bennett.
So be going out and pre-ordering that book now. Do it. Just do it. You'll be glad you did. Let's take 3 here on 3 and Out. Take 1. Recommend a good sports book for the sports fan. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. What is your favorite moment from the Olympics so far?
Yeah, some incredible stories. I think what's been neat is watching a relatively local athlete from right down the road in Jacksonville. I believe a former Florida Gator, Caleb Dressel. Has been a star, one of the stars of the Olympics. I think went to Clay County High School right outside of Jacksonville, and 5 gold medals. You're talking about 5 gold medals, and he and his teammates broke the world record for the 4x100. And I think that was really cool to see, really special to see. But you think about, a young man from right outside Jacksonville, from North Florida, going out and getting those 5 gold medals, becoming an international superstar. The men's and women's swimming teams have had a lot of success, and Dressel's obviously been a big part of that. So I think, seeing a former Florida Gator and a Jacksonville native go out there and become one of the most successful swimmers ever at the Olympics has been really cool to see.
Well, I actually have 3. I'm gonna get my BJ Bennett on. I actually have 3 great moments. The first is Safan Hassan. She actually fell in the 1500 meter prelims, got up and still won. Now just imagine that. I mean, you know, everybody said, "Oh, she's fair." People, she jumped back up, still managed to win the prelims, which showed, you know, her dedication. Then you start talking about the 100-meter final. I mean, everybody was thinking it was going to be, you know, an American. In a sense, it was, and kind of like it wasn't. Lamont Marcel Jacobs is actually from Texas, but he moved to Italy, and he actually won the 100-meter final. What's significant about that is Gianmarco Tamburi from Italy won the triple jump, who was also from Italy. And then when Lamont Jacobs won the 100-meter, they ran up to each other, you know, and embraced. So an Italian won the high jump as well as the 100-meter dash. But Kevin, Mutaz Essa, and I know I'm barging these names, Barshim from Qatar, he also won the high jump. The thing is, both Barshim and Tamburi, they both won. This is how they won. They said, "Do you guys want to keep going?" They kind of do a jump off. They looked at each other. Barshim said, "We both won." Yeah, I'm good. I don't mind sharing the gold with this guy. So, you know, three incredible events, man. But the Olympics, they have been incredible the entire time.
Yeah, I think who was it? The dude that fell on the run. I haven't watched really any of the Olympics. I haven't been home to watch a lot of these, but I did see the highlights on social media. There's a guy that fell on like the 5,000 meter, and he came back and won. He fell down, was at the back, and came back and won the thing. It's really incredible.
It's not a game.
You what?
It's not a game, man. I mean, listen. I
respect you. I mean, you set the junior world record for long jump. I mean,
we're not going to really talk about my past or whatever. You know, I'm trying to keep things positive, but I am going to go check the record books, and hopefully, you know, they still got them. I just got to, you know, brush off some dust and see if they still got them.
Those guys jumping in the Junior Olympics in Georgia back in the early 90s were the truth.
I mean, listen, man. If you got a VHS, I mean, I might have some old school footage back in the day, one of them old school camcorders, a little Polaroid. Might have caught me mid jump. Who knows?
It was amazing.
It was amazing. Wish I would have saw it, but I heard it was amazing.
Ben told us it was an unbelievable jump.
It's the best I've ever seen. And I'm not biased at all.
Set the world record, man, at 12 years old.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, from a 12-year-old's perspective, best I've ever seen. I'm not biased at all.
He jumped 87 feet.
I mean, listen, I just remember when I hit the board, bam, boom, the guy goes, man, that's what I'm talking about. And next thing I know, I'm in Gainesville, in Gainesville, Florida, for the Nationals. Ask my mama. She'll tell you. She ain't got no reason to lie.
Moving along, to day 2. You have Georgia. Everybody, this is like the newest thing. Like you see the guys go on the recruiting trips, and now they get pictures. Everybody slaps them in a uniform and takes their pictures. Apparently, Georgia recruits have been posting pictures of themselves wearing red helmets, the red jersey, and red pants. 1, would you like to see Georgia break it out? And 2, what team looks the best in a solid color, top to bottom? Christian did make a note. You can't do like all white because there are teams that do, straight all white, and he claims that everybody can make all white look good. So, solid color, top to bottom. Who makes it look best? And do you want to see Georgia wear all red? Didn't they do this already? I'm not to answer for you, but didn't they do this once before?
They did like a Power Ranger looking. BJ, didn't they have an all red?
Yeah, listen. This makes me nervous because I've been in attendance when Georgia's tried it a couple of times and it hasn't gone awesome. I was at the Georgia Dome when Georgia played Boise State. Was on the sidelines, and they come out in the Power Rangers. And I appreciate the effort. I don't know that the end result was what you were looking for. You ended up losing that game to Boise State, but those were not great. I was at Georgia, Florida one year. Georgia tried to mix it up. They came out with like the new face mask and the new helmet, and I was like, nah, man, like that's not – I don't know that was necessarily a great look. Georgia, Georgia's got good uniforms, really classic uniforms. I understand you got to mix it up. I just worry because of, again, going back to the Power Rangers, but the best solid color, North Carolina, Carolina blue. I mean, Ben, you were talking about this the other day. The Tar Heels have their own color. Like a lot of teams have great traditions. North Carolina, when they come out in that baby blue, you know who it is. And that Carolina blue, there is that sky blue. There is no doubt who it is. They got Jumpman, the blue helmets, the blue top, the blue pants. That looks pretty good. And then I like all black uniforms. And I think if you can mix the all black with gold, I think about UCLA. UCLA's got some all blacks that are nice. Florida State's got some all blacks that are nice. Miami's got some all blacks that are nice. Also like Miami when Miami goes all green. But for me, the number one is probably North Carolina, the Heels.
Yeah, you can't be North Carolina with it, with the powder blues, baby blues, and North Carolina blues, whatever you want to call it. I mean, BJ, I know the Oregon All Black is serious because they got pink numbers. I'm gonna stick with Oregon for a second. Now, Oregon has these John Deere all green with the big, gigantic yellow numbers, like you're saying. It's like they're saying number 84, like super duper big numbers. But I do like it. But the UCLA All Blacks with the baby blue, super duper nice. The Georgia Tech all blue, that dark, like it's nice, man. I mean, that's a nice one. I mean, BJ, you talking about the Miami all greens, the Mississippi State all browns with the gold numbers. Yes, I like them because it's hard to make brown look good, and they pull it off. But I mean, I do think them Florida all blues is nice too. I'm just saying. I mean, you don't got to like it, BJ. You don't got to like it, but the proof is in the colors, and that all blue is serious. But BJ, you said the Clemson all purples, right? The Clemson all purples, the Clemson all orange, and the Florida all oranges. They're gonna end up in the same division.
What about the Tennessee Vols all smoky grays, Kevin?
They can smoke it in the trash because it's awful. They do not look. The smoky grays are trying to do too much. It looked like you know what I'm saying. Like, remember the all neutral color gloves that we used to have to wear, the all gray ones. I mean, it looked like it's Tennessee, man. Come on, they're doing this all gray with a sherbet orange. That's nasty.
So Tennessee is sherbet, but Mississippi State is brown.
Mississippi State is more of a mahogany. I like the mahogany with the gold.
Is that the color? BJ,
I call it mahogany.
I think it's maroon, right?
Is it maroon?
I'm like 100% sure it's maroon. Yeah.
I mean,
brown.
You do know about maroon. You do know about them burgundy looking colors.
Hey, South Carolina's got some nice all black, and you got the garnet, the maroon, however you want to call it.
So garnet is a real color?
Yeah, garnet and maroon are separate. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Have you ever opened like a 150-pack crayon box? Yeah, there's like a whole bunch of different colors. There's like burnt sienna. Like, who knew?
Okay,
it's not brown. It's not.
Hold on a second. So you're saying Tennessee's orange and Florida's orange are different? Tennessee's orange.
You know that Tennessee orange and Florida orange. Tennessee orange is more like a creamsicle.
Have you been to the paint store and seen all the little paint swatches? It's like, this one is sand.
Kevin, not this week.
Desert.
That's not light brown. That's taupe. I'm just saying that's a real color. That's taupe right there. Oh, okay, cool.
Moving on. Take 3. How sad / downtrodden would you be if you were Quinn Ewers' high school football coach, who's now leaving his senior year to go to Ohio State, presumably to not play right away, but to cash in on name, image, likeness? His name is Riley Dodge. That's the coach of, he was the coach of Quinn Ewers, who is going to quit high school to go enroll early at Ohio State.
Oh, man, you wish him the best. Absolutely. You wish him the best. You're happy for him. I'm sure, you're talking about Quinn having success in that program, and the coach being right there with him for that ride and helping him along the way. I'm sure you're thrilled for him, excited. Now you got to find the next man up. You might be tinkering that scheme some. I mean, you might be looking at it going, hey, we were probably going to, run our offense through the top quarterback in the country. Now we're going to have to mix it up. Got to find a couple of playmakers. Might, switch to the flex bone. I don't know, but I think you're happy for the young man. You're wishing him the best and obviously excited about his opportunities.
Of course you're excited. I mean, this you kind of parlay this, right? I mean, this is gonna be the new thing. If you got the number 1 recruit in the country and they missed their senior year because they want to enroll early, I think you've done what you was there to do. Every head coach says they want to make sure these young men have a future to where they get to pick where they go, pick what happens to them, and not just have to settle. You got the number 1 recruit in the country. He's just not playing the senior year to go ahead and move on and taking advantage of name and image like this. You're supposed to be parlaying this. Now, if you are on his team, I mean, if you the backup, God bless you, young man. I hope you go out there and win it all because you got some big shoes to fill. But yeah, I think you just, as a head coach, you just say, look, man, I would love to have him on my team, but he's superseded expectations, and we didn't have in our future that name and image like was going to be impacting the high school level this early. But here we are. Here it is, and I think all parties involved should be happy for both sides.
Yeah, I think you'd be sad because it affects your team, and then you turn around, and I read something on Twitter earlier today that Quinn's backup is like 6'2" and was 10 of 19 throwing the ball for 3 touchdowns last year. I think they'll be fine. Just means more PT for that young man at the end of the day. But it is crazy. not playing high school because you can go make. And again, I know there's name recognition and all that comes with that, but if he wasn't doing this, how many people would know who Quinn Ewers was?
I mean, a lot. He's the number one. He's the number one high school recruit. I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that he's a household name. Like if you walk in a
I'm
grocery
pretty sure
store.
before this, he was not a household name. Maybe if you were a recruit.
I don't know, man. Look, you're you're the number one quarterback in the country. Again, if you walk in like a grocery store and just say, "Do you know who Quinn Ewers is?" There might not be that many yeses, but I think in the realm we're talking about, like of sports fans, football fans, college football fans, I think people know who he is. I mean, he's top quarterback recruit in the country.
Listen, if you haven't seen him yet, I mean, he got in the fight with Peroxide and lost. The young boy got a nice little blonde, he's looking mohawk looking thing, and he's embracing the look. Like, isn't that a new thing though, Kevin and BJ? Bigger than just how you play is how you look. I want to be recognizable. I'm the number one recruit in the country. Think about his mom who told him, cut that stuff off. No, Mom, not only am I keeping it on my head, I'm the number one recruit in the country, and I'm making money now. These boys making money going into college. I had to learn how to deal with money coming out of college. Salute to these young boys. Bank accounts looking healthy.
It'll be looking nice if he gets those huge deals that he is expecting to get. We'll come back. We'll talk some pro football. The Falcons. Hayden Hurst had some comments about Kyle Pitts and his role with the Atlanta Falcons. We'll get to those next here on 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network.
Rumors spread around United Texas town about the shack outside the game.
Great to be here with you. Falcons back at it. We talked to D. Orlando Ledbetter back in hour number two, hour number two, about things happening there at Flowery Branch. Of course, you got Kyle Pitts in there, Hayden Hurst. BJ, you talked about what do you do with two tight end sets, and Hayden Hurst comes out and says, look, it's not me or Kyle Pitts. It's me and Kyle Pitts. And, I think that's a nice way to look at it. It's like, hey, we're not duking it out to try to kick me off the field, or I'm trying to kick him off the field. It could be both of us out there. Ben, normally when we see this in the NFL, we hear, all right, this is the guy that's going to be catching the balls, and you're the guy that's going to have to go put his hand in the dirt, and if you get to run a route, it's by accident. Can this work with two guys? I mean, I know it can. One of the most successful franchises in the NFL did it with two tight ends all the time. Can Matt Ryan and company make it work having two tight ends, Hayden Hurst, Kyle Pitts, that can go out and catch the ball?
Yes, and it's actually going to make it more difficult for defenses. When you start talking about 12 personnel, that means two tight ends, two receivers, one running back. And what happens is you're trying to get your best players on the field at the same time. The one thing that it gives you is flexibility. Hayden Hurst is bigger than Kyle Pitts. So what if they want to go to the power I? Hayden Hurst then shifts to he can shift to the fullback position. How do you know? I did it. I didn't prefer it, but I could move to the fullback position. Then you saw us saying 3-by-1. Okay, that means that now you got Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts on the same side. Do you put Justin Gage on the outside, or do you put Ridley on the outside? Or put it to the single receiver side. Then you start talking about route combinations. You can run a lot of route combinations when you got two, because the thing about Hayden Hurst that people forget, he was a first-round tight end. It just didn't work out in Baltimore. He's a guy that's a mismatch as well. So if Kyle Pitts is 6'6", 240, can run a 4.4, Hayden Hurst is 6'4", 250, and can run a 4.5, you got to deal with both of those guys because while Kyle Pitts has a better skill set, they both can do the same things. And this is the thing that really scares people. It's the motions. All motions do in football is you trying to decide what the defense is doing. Are they a man? Are they a zone? Are they trying to do something exotic? But the thing is, what do you do as a defense? Do I take my nickel back and I put him on Kyle Pitts, so now I'm giving up size, speed, and ability? Or do I stay in my base and I just slide a linebacker out? Now I'm giving up athleticism. So the thing about the two tight end position is when you got two tight ends that can do a lot, that means that the offensive coordinator can really go in his bag and say, look, we could do a whole bunch. Go back to the Philly special. The Philly special was made good because of three tight ends. That's called trio, which you got another tight end that we didn't even talk about with the Falcons. The trio is you got trio just means you got three tight ends. You had Zach Ertz, you had Brent Selleck, and you had Trey Burton. So what I'm saying, what makes it so dangerous is I don't have to make a guy do something he don't want to do. So when you start talking about when Hayden Hurst said, no, it's me and Kyle Pitts. That's called pick your poison. When you go back to Bill Belichick, they went to the Super Bowl with Aaron Hernandez, Rob Gronkowski, and Wes Welker. They took a wide tight end. That's the guy who's hand on the ground. That would be Hayden Hurst. They got a U tight end. U means move. That's the tight end that moves around. That would be Kyle Pitts. And you got to still deal with Ridley. You still got to deal with Gage. Oh, Matty Ice still can get the ball to anybody. So I think that what makes it crazy is the flexibility, and you got bigger run gaps too. Because if I got two guys that can hurt me catching the ball, that means that the splits of the offensive line can be a little wider. You know, kind of like Big 12. You look at Big 12 offensive linemen, their splits are a little bit wider because they throw the ball all the time, but they also run the ball effectively. So what happens is if I'm giving the running back more of a lane to run the ball through, that just means that my offensive line got to get on the rhythm. So flexibility, motions, being able to really get in your bag and realize what we can do with these guys, and you really can do whatever you want. The Philly special proved that even tight ends can throw the football. I wish it would have been me. I would have loved to throw the football back in at least one play, but Kevin, it's like, you know, it's like having a guy on a baseball field that doesn't have any flaws. He can do anything. I just got to get him on base. Why? Because he can steal. He can hit for power. He can hit for the cycle. That's kind of what having 12 personnel is. I got two guys that make a perfect tight end. Kyle Pitts by himself is not perfect. Hayden Hurst with Kyle Pitts is not perfect. When you put them together, it could get ugly because you got so much to do. Because remember, as soon as you say, we're going to double Kyle Pitts, Hayden Hurst is one-on-one. Oh, okay, well, we're gonna try to play inside and out on them tight ends. We're gonna cover Calvin Ridley one-on-one. Oh, wait a minute, man. What about Gage? Oh, he can hurt you. Oh, as soon as you think they're finna run the ball up, they go 10 yards in the crowd of dust for Mike Davis. So it makes life better for everybody because everybody is a focal point. That's the main thing about 12 personnel. It's not he's gonna get the ball. No, it's who gets to your route, who gets to the top of your route the best. Number 1, number 2, and number 3 is interchangeable depending on what the route combination is. And I was blessed enough to do it with Aaron Kenny and Bo Scaife. When I was out there with Aaron Kenny, man, I was a better tight end because they're not gonna put me at the focal point to the point of as far as like blocking scheme, they're not gonna put me at the point of attack. So I thought, but no, Ben, you a better backside blocker. So we're gonna make it look like it's on the backside. We're gonna run a counter. We're gonna start to the right and come back behind your block. I'm telling you, it's funner because everybody's a focal point, and you can't like really like say we're gonna move our defense to one guy. I think it's gonna be great. I think Kyle Pitts gonna be great in it. I think Hayden Hurst gonna be great in it because if you know that it's like what Julio did. Julio draws a crowd. Well, if I got 4 guys, I really got 3 guys that draw a crowd. Hayden Hurst can draw one, really can draw one. Kyle Pitts can draw one. Matty Ice can get the ball to the right guy. Oh, they finna pass. Oh, they ran the ball. Oh, they finna pass. Keep the defense all balanced. So, yeah, BJ, 12 personnel is going to be your best because you got 2 of the best athletes on the field at tight ends. One just happened to can run a 4.41, and he's 6'6". The other guy's 6'5", 260, and can run a 4. I'm just saying it should get ugly. It should be very, very exciting on offense. And for me, it's just the creativity of the offensive coordinator and really those guys going out there and executing.
So theoretically, if you're Atlanta and let's say you have a 3rd down and you come out in a 2 tight end set and you have 2 receivers, obviously a running back. So is it fair to assume that cornerback 1 for the defense is going to be matched up against Ridley? Cornerback 2 is going to be matched up against Gage, and then maybe you have a safety or some sort of double coverage situation against Kyle Pitts. Where does that leave Hayden Hurst? I mean, is Hayden Hurst, because of the defensive pressure the guys around him draw, is he looking at potential matchups with linebackers, even on obvious passing downs?
2 words, Austin Hooper. Austin Hooper was started getting one-on-one, and they started really feeding him. I just think that football is about matchups. Safeties, you got to have 2 really, really good safeties that can really, really play those deep thirds well because safeties don't cover tight ends. They get funneled to them. They make sure that they put him in a position to where I'm giving him a one-way go instead of a 2-way go. Well, Kyle Pitts is faster than most cornerbacks, not linebackers. Safeties, I mean, sometimes I know this crazy outside of the linemen, safeties are your slowest DBs. They got to be your smartest. So I think what it does, BJ, man, it's really whatever you do. You got the vertical routes, you got the in-seaming routes, you got the in-breaking routes. And listen, and think about this. This is what people ain't even factoring in. All right, everybody runs vertical. Oh, we got everybody. Dump it off to Mike Davis. Now you got the check downs. And Matty Ice is the one that's going to really, really make it go because you got to have it's like people talk about the Tampa 2 defense, right? Back in the day with Derek Brooks. Derek Brooks was the only reason you can run it because he was a weak side linebacker that was smart enough to come up and stop the check down, but be in the middle of the field so you can't throw that deep in cut. It was beautiful to watch. So just because it's 12 personnel don't mean it's going to be successful. You got to have the right guys. If Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst ain't the right guys, I don't know 2 guys are, but I think it should be pretty exciting.
BJ, I don't know about you. It sounds like Ben's getting excited talking about it. He's like, hey, I would love to go out there and be the tight end opposite Kyle Pitts.
Hey, listen, Ben, I don't even know what you're talking about, man. I was about to call the situation the ace formation because on Madden, you get the 2 tight ends, you have one run the corner out, and you wait 3 seconds and you press triangle. That's all I know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, no. Well, think about this. Look at it like this. I mean, BJ, and the 3rd tight end is Lee Smith. I don't want to be missing people's names. But think about this for a second. you take the 3 and out dynamic, right? Kevin, consummate professional. Kevin gonna give it to you straight. You analytics guy, right? Me, I'm the personality in a sense. All right, right. Put us together. You got a great show because you got 3 different guys that do 3 different things, but all share a love for radio. You talk about Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst gonna be your more complete tight end because he can put his hand on the ground. He's the wide tight end. I mean, Kyle Pitts is a freaking unicorn. I mean, he can do anything in the passing game. He went to the man pool of tight ends and he dove in. He said cannonball, and everybody got with that. That's how good he is. Lee Smith has said, I don't want the ball thrown to me. Like, I don't want to do that. So what happens is when you got three different tight ends that have three different skill sets, you out there making sure those guys go out, put them in a position to be successful. So, yeah, I do think the 12 personnel is always the most dangerous because as a defense, you don't know what they're doing. They snap the ball, they get in their formation, they, alignment assignment, and then next thing you know, execute, focus, finish. And I think the thing about it is forget all the great players they got. Matty Ice is going to be the one. Matty Ice going to make sure that Hayden Hurst is the way he's supposed to be. Kyle Pitts is the way he's supposed to be. Really where he's supposed to be. Gage is the way he's supposed to be. Mike Davis picking up that blitz. It should be beautiful to watch because once that thing is done right, it's going to be rough on those defenses because like you said, BJ, if I take a linebacker out and I put a DB in, well, I'm giving up size. I might not be giving up speed, but I'm giving up size. I mean, Kyle Pitts got the longest wingspan of a tight end in NFL history. And outside of Vernon Davis, he's the second fastest I've ever seen, 4.41. So who gonna run with him? Then they're gonna put the ball in the air. Who gonna jump with him? You know what? What if they pump fake the Kyle Pitts, throw it back to Hayden Hurst? I'm just saying it's a lot of stuff you can do. I am not in the same realm as a Kyle Pitts athletically, but when I had Aaron Kenny, I used to talk trash. I'd be like, yeah, I wish you would say something because EK got my back. Now then when they say, Ben, you at the point of attack, man. Y'all better do something because I tell the running backs, boy, I'm blocking for you this play, boy, but you better hit the hole downhill quick or you're going to get blown up. It should be fun. I'm looking forward to seeing those guys get out there and do it. And BJ, I know you be trying to break down soccer to me, and I do my best to follow you. I really do. But it's rough. But this year, I'm gonna break down some film to you to show you why this play. Like as the coach said, it's not that we run it; it's why we run it. I'm gonna show you why they ran it against the personnel that they ran it against, and hopefully you'll be able to stay with me. If I can sit there and watch a little soccer with you, can't watch a whole game. I can't do that, but I can give you about 10 minutes. I'm gonna be able to break down some of this tape to you and show you just why beautiful the game of football really is.
I want to get Ben's 10-minute soccer breakdown one day on the show. If
you look at the left wing, go. Wait a minute. No, BJ would break soccer down and go, did you just see what happens? I'm like, yeah.
See, Team USA. Team USA won the Gold Cup last night. We were talking about it in the office earlier.
I feel like Ben's soccer breakdown would be like Tayshaun Prince describing a rebound. And when they came down, they kicked it in the back of the net, and that's called a goal, and that's 1-0.
And they had more of those than we did.
Yes, and they had more of those than we did. The end. We'll come back. More to come here on 3 and Out all across the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Rare night off for the Braves, but can they actually win 2 in a row? Who the heck knows at this point? It's 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Great to be here with you on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Braves off today, which means they don't get to win today because they're due for that. No, BJ, you're looking at me all crazy. No, they lost yesterday, so they are due to win the next time they play. So,
or is it a day-to-day thing, and does this kind of reset everything because you're not playing the next day?
So today would be the win day, and now don't hex them like that, BJ. Can't do it. But I will say, since the Braves made their trades at the trade deadline, good to have a lineup that's got a little bit more potency to it. What would you like to see it be, BJ, here moving forward as they settle in? I know you still got one more guy to come off injury. The outfielder they got there from the Indians, whose name just slipped my mind at the present moment. But I know he's on the DL for a couple more weeks. But Soler has come in hitting. Jock Peterson, I think, has been good, and everybody likes to see Adam Duvall. What lineup would you like to see here the rest of the way?
You know, I had an idea I wanted to run by you, and this is something that a month or two ago I couldn't have imagined saying just because the strikeout rate was so high. But do you consider moving Dansby Swanson up to the leadoff spot, even if maybe for a week or two, just to see how it goes? Because I think Jock Peterson is probably even more so than Dansby, more of a boom or bust hitter, like traditionally over his career. And I think with his power, he could still bring, clear value to the 5-hole or the 6-hole. Dansby Swanson a couple of weeks ago was hitting like 230. Now he's almost hitting 250. And he's been finding a lot of gaps. He's been hitting a lot of doubles. I mean, before I kind of go into this thing, is that something you would consider at all, Dansby Swanson at leadoff?
No, I'm leaving him where he's at because it's working right now for him. Now, as far as the rest of the line, I think you have to let this thing kind of play out. Baseball is not one that you can react to like a one-game sample size and say this is what it is. But Soler hitting 192 for the season, then coming in and having like a 3-hit game right off the jump kind of makes me nervous. But, I think the lineup there with Jock Peterson, Soler, Adam Duvall, you're going to be getting d'Arnaud back, hopefully here in the next 3 to 4 weeks or so. He started a rehab assignment. I think that becomes a much more dangerous lineup. And to me, BJ, with that, there's at least the guys whose batting average is awful, like Soler was hitting 192 with Kansas City. At least there's a threat that he might actually hit it over the fence. It's like, hey,
he had 47 home runs 2 years ago.
That's what I'm saying. But my point being, would you rather that a guy hit 192 be Soler or Guillermo Heredia or Ire Adrianza, who is like, he could hit the ball, but if he starts to go in the tank, at least with Soler, there's the possibility that, hey, if he catches a hanger, it's going over the fence.
Well, and yes, I agree, but I do think there's value. I think Ben Ingram and some of the guys the other day were talking about how Heredia has been very effective at working pitch counts, and he and Almonte and Adrianza have all done a really good job in that regard. So I think those guys are certainly viable, but I think to stick with your Peterson at the top thing, I think if you go Jock Peterson, Ozzie Albies, Freddie Freeman, clearly Austin Riley in the 4-hole, he's been a revelation this season. Swanson, I think, deserves to be the 5-hole hitter. I know he's been 5, 6, sometimes depending. I would put Duvall in at 6. I would go Soler 7, Vogt 8, and then your pitcher 9. And that's a lineup that has power and potential all the way through. It's a much deeper lineup, a much more dangerous lineup. And then, like you said, when everybody's healthy, you do have the options to kind of play the lefty-righty matchup or go with the hot hand, whether it's Adrianza, whether it's Rosario once he's healthy, whether it's Almonte. Heredia obviously has done a nice job. And Adrianza, remember, can play in the infield as well. So that's a guy, if you need a rest for one of your starters, can play in the infield. I think it's a much better lineup than it was a few days ago.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter, like Kevin said, I mean, with guys coming back, I mean, how interchangeable is this lineup going to be down the stretch? I mean, I know that Dansby Swanson is the man right now. I give Austin Riley a lot of credit for because I understand he's being judged in two ways. Obviously, Kevin, what he does at third base, which he's proven to definitely be the guy, but what he was doing on the plate, because obviously when we forget the fact that, okay, he got called up a little earlier, and then he was on fire when he first got called up and kind of stalled a little bit. But I think when you look at the fact that Austin Riley is doing what he's doing. It makes it so that you got a little bit more flexibility, but it's not like this is going to be the same. Ronald Acuna Jr. being out really makes things a lot harder because, like you said, BJ, if you put Dansby Swanson, in that one hole, my goodness. I'm going to say this. I know you said Dansby Swanson, which I'm just saying this because I know Ozzie can be in the one hole. Could you potentially, just to give him, more opportunity, could you put Freddie Free in the one hole? It gives him more opportunity. I'm just saying, I know Snit is saying, Ben, that's why you do radio. I get it. But at the same time, isn't the guy in the one hole supposed to get the most opportunities? And obviously,
to that point, if you were going to move one of the quote stars up to try to sort of replicate to the best of your ability the Acuna thing, which is his generational. You're not going to be able to replace that. But I think if you were going to do that and you weren't happy necessarily with Peterson's high strikeout rate or whatever, I would look to Albies, Kevin, as if you wanted to make a change, I would look to Ozzie as the leadoff hitter.
Yeah, I think Ozzie's the better guy for that. And again, I think this is while it's not what you started with, it's still a more potent lineup than what you have been working with. And I think given some time to play together, I think you'll see some of these guys bring the run production up a little bit because, again, it's been feast or famine with this Braves team. You win 10-1 or you lose 1-0 or 2-1. The pitching, I thought, was good in the Brewers series. The starting pitching was good. I look at Kyle Muller has been a revelation. I think this win one, lose one, win one, lose one thing, BJ, to me is all on the offense. Your pitching has been good enough to allow you to win multiple games. You have had the opportunity to win. You had an opportunity to win the Brewers series, quite frankly. If you could have scored some runs, you just could not do it consistently enough, and it got away from you. So,
so let me ask you this, Kevin, the naysayer, when I always bring this up. Are you starting to buy into my theory that scoring 20 and 17 runs in a game is bad? It's bad. It's not. No. Okay.
No, I think you score them as you can get them. I just think there's opportunities where, I think the next. I understand where you come from with that. I just think scoring 20 one day probably doesn't have a whole lot to do with how many you score the next day. It probably has
totally disagree. Totally disagree.
Well, I would say it has more to do with the guy they put on the mound, probably more than anything. But the Braves only scored 1 or 2 runs. It wasn't because guys weren't on base. It was because they didn't find a way to get them in. And so I look at that and say, hey, maybe there is a turning point that's coming with these guys where it happens. Kind of like guys that hit it hard. Like, hey, you're hitting it hard, but you're making outs. You're hitting hard, but eventually those are going to fall in. I think eventually you're going to see this team start to hit better in the clutch as many times as they leave guys on base. We got to step aside. We'll come back with more 3 and Out on the Southern Pigskin Radio Network. Welcome back to 3 and Out here on this Monday. Kevin, BJ, and Ben. Braves off tonight. They will be back tomorrow. Of course, NFL training camps are open, and we are counting down towards the first NFL preseason games, Hall of Fame game coming up. And BJ and Ben, we have football this week. Football, at least one game between now and Super Bowl Sunday. It's on. Every week, you can at least here in August for a little bit, satisfy your football itch before we get into September, October, November, December. But between now and the Super Bowl, we got football every week.
I'm ready. And as you heard explicitly, Kevin, Ben is going to sit down and watch the entire preseason with us, break down game tape, film, schemes. We're going to learn it because, Ben, you love preseason football, right?
I can't. Well, I mean, I couldn't stand preseason football when I was a player, but no. I mean, football is back. Listen, the two greatest words in football is game week. That's what you're going to always hear. The grass is green, sky is blue. Got a lot of work to do. Yeah. They used to say that every single week, game week with BJ is here. You know, we got NFL football. We got college football. Them boys out there in Gainesville, they're already gearing up. You know what it is. I mean, Georgia's going to win the national championship. We'll see what happens with that. But no, football is back. You know, we got the Hall of Fame game. Shout out to all the Hall of Famers. I remember when I went to the NFL Hall. Anyway, yeah.
Is that right after you went to SEC Media Days? SEC Media Days. Yeah, SEC Media Day. No, yeah, that's right.
Well, listen. When I was at SEC, no, wait, you talking about SEC? Oh, I thought y'all meant SEC Media Days. No, I was at SEC Media Days. No,
because nobody SE saw you at SEC Media Days.
I wasn't really a focal. I was more like Lee Smith. At that point, you know, wasn't nobody. They were looking for Hayden Hurst and Kyle Pitts. But I'm just saying, BJ, how many SEC? You sure you was at that media day? Didn't you skip one time? Because maybe that was the one I went to. The one you skipped.
I think you and I missed the same ones.
I'm just saying. I mean, listen. What am I supposed to say? Hey, Ben, tell us about media days. Oh yeah, you want to come? Of course. Am I supposed to say no?
I remember that time I went. It was amazing. You and Steve Spurrier got on the plane.
Everybody was there.
What was it like riding on the plane to get? Oh, it was amazing. Then you're like, oh no, I actually didn't go. That's still one. I don't know which is better, that or the Muggsy Bogues story from Matt. That's right up there.
We're like, Matt, you're 25 years old.
Ashton Sullivan. See you tomorrow, 3 and Out.